I'm more educated than Mike Mentzer. I know more things than Mike Mentzer.
We're joined by none other than Jonni Shreve.
Thank
who's
you.
a coach, an IFBB pro bodybuilder,
Nice.
a beautiful physique, and someone who knows a thing or two about telling it like it is. And with me, as usual, is Lyle McDonald, whose
Howdy.
opinions are never lukewarm.
Correct.
Thank you for being here, gentlemen.
Thanks for having
I
us.
appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. That was definitely rehearsed, maybe, because that was fantastic.
Oh, thanks, Jonni. Well, I like to be
Absolutely.
prepared. Indeed, I had a binge of your content before we arranged this podcast, and after you left that great comment on my video, and I think you have a great message, and some real kind of incisive commentary and criticisms of a lot of the nonsense that goes on.
Yeah.
So it's a real honor to have you on.
Well, I appreciate being on it because I've been binge watching ever since since that first video I saw with Mike.
Yeah.
Dr. Mike.
Right.
I was like, oh, Mike, I think Greg sent it to me. I was like,
Oh,
what's
really?
this? And
Oh, nice.
I'm like 3 hours. I'm like, what the fuck? And I turn it on. I'm like, okay, let me, because it was I was like, this guy is spot on. Oh my god. And then it was just a snowball effect after that. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. I'm all about the description of the Bible. It's like you're either hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's kind of
cool.
I feel that way about people. But I mentioned you were a top tier coach and a pro bodybuilder, but I don't know if I alluded to this, but you're also a very successful YouTuber. And I know we mentioned Mike, but a few years ago you did a number of collaborations with him, Mike Israetel, and if I'm not mistaken, Jonni, that working relationship didn't exactly end on a warm and fuzzy note.
No, it was, to be like quite honest, it was because like it's funny because I get comments like, oh, how dare you, man, you did stuff with Dr. Mike, and I'm like, okay, so since I collab with somebody, I can't be objective still. But funny thing I went down to the Olympia for the first time in a while since after the pandemic, whatever. And then I bumped into him because I know I go down there to network and meet and whatnot. And I see him and I'm like, we got to work together. He's like, yes, we do. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, cool. And then we hit it off. Like, I swear to God, I was like, we from? He's like, yeah, I'm from Detroit. I'm like, oh, cool, from Windsor. Like, we're basic family. And he was, it was great chumming and everything like that. We were actually had more subscribers than he did at that time. And,
Right.
And I was coming off of like a 20 million, view months. And a lot of the stuff a lot of things I took from Greg in terms of like strategy and whatnot. So when I linked up with Mike, I was like, yo, man, you gotta post more, do this and that and the other, post like daily if you have to, because he's been posting as much as he is now, not even close. Right. And I had a series called Coaching Up. I used to do a while ago. And then I used to do a bunch of men's health debunking and whatnot.
Oh, cool.
And then all of a sudden those started popping up. And then I'm like, you can't, you should steal from each other in terms of like strategy. If someone's doing good, don't reinvent the wheel. Do what works.
Great artists, good artists copy, great artists steal.
Right. So all the power to everybody doing that. But then, it got to the point when we started competing, and then I gave my opinion, and it was not a bad opinion at all. It was like, during this competing, I help everyone I know. I'm very much like Greg. I'm like the softer coating of a Greg, right? Where like, if you're close to a show and you don't want to get your feelings hurt, do not ask Greg how you don't. Like the first time I met Greg, I was in his DMs trying to get him. I was trying to steal information from him during my first time competing. 6 weeks out from nationals, he told me, he's like, I wouldn't compete if I were you. And I was like, who the fuck is this guy telling me to compete? Like, he's like, you're not gonna be in lean enough shape. You're not gonna be blah blah blah. And I'm like, what? And I was like, I ran 10 hundreds back when I was 8% body fat playing college ball, blah 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 blah. He's like, if you can run 1000s 6 weeks out from a show, you're not in shape. And I'm like, hindsight, he was right. But when I actually did exactly that, got to the show, I placed second call, top 10 actually, and he was the first person to congratulate me. So the first person he'll be the first guy to be like, you're fat, but he's the first person to be like, yo, good job as well. So anyway, back to Mike. So for me, when people like invite me into their circle or whatever, and you know, I'm in the position that I'm in, I'm one of the best posing coaches in Canada. One top poser, yada yada yada. Like that's what I do.
I've seen your guest posings. You wear like these cool costumes.
I do it all. Yeah,
it's not easy posing like that. Seriously.
No. And I put a lot of effort and stuff into it.
It shows.
So I messaged him, and you know, I was like, hey man, like how's prep, whatever, and he messaged me back, and you know, it's I'm just trying to be nice with him, right? I'm like, hey. This is, I would, what are you doing for cardio? He's like, steps. I'm like, steps. I'm like, you gotta do cardio. He's like, well, steps is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, steps is not going to really do much for you when you're trying to like really, peel down. Steps are great for overall health and whatnot, for just increasing your overall, activity level. But like for you trying to get absolutely bone dry, you need to, do cardio. Well, I do this. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to, and I'm like, hey, like, look, if you need help posing, like send me whatever you have and I'll help you out, this and that. And so that went on, and then like I'll send him pictures of some of the guys that I work with that are like absolutely peeled. Like this guy's doing this much cardio, blah blah blah. And then then after the show happened, I'm like, okay, whatever. He's nothing really that came from it. And then Greg put a video out that was very like, and me and Greg at that time weren't the best of boys, but it was a comment Greg made that I know Greg personally. I've known Greg for 10 years. He's like, he went to my wedding. Like I know the guy personally.
Wow, and you were his posing coach, right?
Yeah, I helped him. Yeah. I helped him pose and whatnot. He let me be his posing coach for a show and
nice
for Toronto and whatnot. Like he's like, we respect each other when it comes to bodybuilding, like very much so. I don't care what happened. He's I'll give respect's due.
Yeah.
And so I'm basically like I saw Greg's video, and he was really like on brand with Greg, and he made a comment about the gear use, and this is at the time when Mike is on like podcast after podcast giving this like, just I would not do what Mike was doing and tell the world that I have this issue with steroids and it makes me dumb and then I'm violent, yada yada yada. And Greg made a post, and I was like, I commented the post. I was like, yeah, I'm like. Greg actually, when it comes to Greg, he actually cares. Like he cares about steroid abuse and use. That's just who Greg is, right? Yeah. It might not sound like it, but he is. Anyway, so I messaged him, and this is like this is a conversation we had, and I'll only put a little bit in there. But we're supposed to collaborate, and it was his idea because he was getting really busy. We were supposed to hook up at the Olympia. And we planned on doing some kind of hooking up again in September of last year. And I'm like, yo, I'm going to be in the area. I want to know if you want to get some food. And he's like, are you going to know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then, because like, I'm not going to go down to Wednesday back where I'm from and be like, hey, you just want to collab? Actually was like, yo, you want to go get a bite? So he messaged me. I'm like, funny. I'm like, don't worry. You don't have to talk. I'm like, you eat, I'll talk. And then I messaged him again. I'm like, anyways, so blah blah blah. I'm gonna come down. You want to grab a bite? He's like, are you sure you understand what I'm saying? I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then he sends me a screenshot of my comment to Greg, my post, like the reply, and my heart sank. Like it sank because at that time, like right then and there, I was like, oh man, he's not that guy. I'm like, no. I'm like, he's not. Is he actually insecure about this? So anyway, not going to open that conversation up. But like basically in the conversation, it was a back and forth. And then at one point I was like, enough of this bullshit. I'm like, you're not going to put this in. And then he eventually was like, eventually was like, I'm not in a good space right now. Like, I want to dump it on you, but like, my bad, blah, blah, blah. Eventually I came back to him after, like, hey man, you basically want to, about this collab. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm really busy with RP, and I just don't really see us being able to collab at all. And I knew what that meant, you know, and I was like, you know what? I'm like, hey man, all good. I know you're busy, bro. Good luck with everything. Toodaloo, basically. I knew then and there he was extremely upset about Greg's videos on him. I was giving him general advice. The same advice that I gave him, I gave Eric Janicki. And Eric Janicki was like, yo, appreciate it. He literally FaceTimed me and I helped him with his posing. His coach knew I was giving a little bit of feedback when on. He was asking Greg for help, whatever. The same shit I was giving Eric, Mike took as, in one part, you solicited your services to me. And I was like, if I'm gonna try and solicit my service, I'm gonna be like, hire me, bro. Like that's what I'm saying. But I will say people like here, but like, yo, I'll help you with posing. Let me help you out, whatever. Eric called me up. I helped him out. He sent me pictures. I'd help him out. No, I'm not gonna charge you shit. Like that's who I am. Up until then, I was like, this guy's cool. He's one of the dogs. He's this and that, you know. And end up being like, okay, he's actually not that guy. He's actually quite an insecure dude. And there's a very few guys, for those who watch this, there's very minimal actual YouTubers that are legitimately secure with themselves, confident people. A lot of these guys hide behind their success or the persona they put on, not knowing that eventually, which boggles my mind, that someone will dig up something on you and show your actual true colors, and time will reveal anything as is anyway. And it was super disappointing because I was like, I thought Mike was like that guy. I thought it was super cool. And like, I'm not trying to tear his ass down. This is my experience. Is he a good guy? Like, he probably is a good guy. Like, I don't think he wakes up in the morning like I want to cause issues, but he's definitely not the dude that I thought he was. That's for sure.
Right.
And I'll tell him to his face. I'm like, dude, you have an issue or whatever. You know, don't do that whole like, I don't know if we can collab anymore, man, because you know I'm really busy with things. You know, it's like, no, you're not. You're just upset that I commented on Greg's post, and then you're mad about that, and you're so bitter about that that now you're cutting ties with me, which is cool. But I'm still gonna say what I'm gonna say about you regardless, even if it was gonna happen regardless anyway. Because I would have said exactly what I said, even if we were collaborating, whatever. I'm like, I'm not gonna let you say stupid shit online. Just yeah. So that's kind of like in a nutshell what happened.
And Jonni, what did your comment on Greg's post read?
It's still there, but it was basically like there's a lot of context that comes with like both in and out. So the video that was on one of his first videos he did on Mike, and it was something along the lines of, I know Greg and he actually does care. And then I was talking about like what Mike is saying, and the rest of the comment was basically like, what Mike is saying is obviously under the influence of steroids. He doesn't actually mean it. And he was basically saying like, he made a post like, if I die, I die type thing. You know, don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. If something happens, whatever, I know what I'm doing. If I basically like that. And I actually brought that up to Mike too. I actually had to like go back into like a screenshot and give it to him. Like, this, you said this, Mike. Like, what do you, I'm not making things up, you know? And he's like, does Greg actually care? And I'm like, he doesn't care about you, but when it comes to steroid abuse and whatnot, he's actually passionate about it. There's one thing about Greg that's very, very consistent, and it's been like that forever. And I know him personally about that. So it was basically me just saying, basically, you know, Greg actually doesn't care about this, you know, this topic. And, you know, what Mike is saying is obviously on the influence. There's no way he cares. There's no way he's saying that if he dies early, that, you know, don't worry about it. It's like, stop. Like, people say that until they're on their deathbed and they're like, oh shit, I want years back. So yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So
totally.
Just if I can, Mike has said that a number of times. And he's like, you know what? I know steroids have taken 10 years off my life. And if I die early, it was totally worth it. And it's like, to be mediocre, to never look good on, like, that's like, I get it. We all make sacrifices, you know, and people are like, well, you know, pro football players take drugs. Yeah, they make $20 million a year. Like, I get why they put their, and it's coping. It's like, Solomon did a video about a guy named Izzy years ago, and I don't want to drag that up. And you saw him start to make excuses for what he'd already decided to do. And he's like, well, it's all ego lifting, and I don't care if I throw away my health because I'm chasing this goal and I'm dedicated. And it's like, to your point, 20 years from now, or even now, when he's broken and injured and has destroyed his health, it's like, was it worth it?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's funny because like I understand that psyche, right? Because I've said that to myself, like in the moment, You know, it's like, yeah, like I know what's going on. I'm doing grams of gear. I'm IFBB Pro, like open class competitor, trying to make it to. I'm trying to, you know, place top 5, then eventually win a show, then go to. That was my goal. So I'm doing whatever it takes to get there. And I had that psyche. So when I made the comment, he's under influence. He's confirmed it in podcast himself. At the same time, I know what that's like, because when I'm not taking gear, and like I'm not. Like now, like I've exposed, I said I was on TRT now, most recently. But before that, when I was off, it was like my brain was never thinking I'm gonna do it for the sport. I was like, no, I'm not. Like I want to live. Like that's why I stopped competing. I don't want to lose 10 years of my life. I want to hopefully get all of the years I might have, you know, lost back. So for anyone to say that, I'm like, you're not saying it with a clear conscience. I don't care who you are. I know the ramifications of what steroids do to your mental health 100%. Like, and I see it complete, and I've lived it, and I experienced it. I'm very aware of it, because I still have a therapist, but when I was going through my, you know, competition years, I luckily had a therapist that I can talk to about things and have that awareness to know that how much that steroids does really mess with your mental health, like a lot. And if you are genetically not able to kind of handle it, it's going to be that much worse. And for me, I was like, that was like an obvious, you know, thing Mike was going through, that he was trying to cope and act like, you know, oh no, it's just something I'm kind of putting on. It's like, no, man, you're kind of fucked. Sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier Mike's transparency when it comes to the drug side effects he experiences, and a lot of people praise his transparency, and I do think to an extent his honesty is praiseworthy. But I don't like when people act as if honesty is some kind of shield against criticism. I think you can still validly criticize someone for doing silly things, even if they're honest about doing the silly things, you know?
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's also one of those things where, like, I'm very transparent about, you know, my mental health. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. That's not when you want to be like, you know, jump around and be like, hey, everybody, this is what I have. But I don't say that, but then still act on it either. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to, you know, go on, like, you know, for me, it was like, good job, Mike, for opening up, but you're still abusing steroids. So you're not really doing anything but saying, oh yeah, by the way, I'm a C addict, but, you know, I know how much it messes my life up, but I'm still doing it. So
yeah,
it's like, well, wait a minute. And then you get these, you know, followers, you know, just like bootlicker, like, good job, Mike, for, you know, he's being honest about it. It's like,
Right.
So he's still not, like, he's not doing anything about it. What are you talking about?
Like, I don't know if this is more common in bodybuilding. Like, I've been involved in a zillion sports. Like my old training partner, you see this so much. You got a bodybuilder, and he's okay in the gym, and he's got this cadre of people that are like, dude, you're big, and then they go to show, and they're like, it was the all politics thing. That was the excuse 20 years ago, and they can't handle criticism, right? My old training partner was like, everybody's gym told him how good he looked in this, and I was like, but your hamstrings are weak, and that's what you need. But he was willing to listen. And like you made the point when I think you said Greg gave you feedback, at first you were like, you son of a bitch. And then you thought, well, you know, maybe I should listen. And in my experience, people that are willing to hear criticism and fix their weaknesses, they're the ones that keep progressing. Mike decides all critics are haters or rounding errors, which is an inside joke from something else Solomon said. And only the people, like if you go to his Instagram, he'll delete critical comments now, which is weak-minded as all hell. But he'll only engage with the people that are telling him what he wants to hear. They're the ones in the right. And I'm sorry, that's how you end up with an also-ran athlete. Those guys never progress because they'll never accept that maybe it wasn't their tan that held them back.
It is definitely the sport. So I've came to my conclusion, like my theory, because I came from playing football. My football career didn't go as planned. So me, you know, still on that drive, like I want to be a professional. Like, where is this route? How can I do that? what's this bodybuilding? I came into bodybuilding and really not knowing about bodybuilding, right? It was something very new. So when I got the critique from Greg, it was a very like a shock, like who's this dude type thing. But at the same time, for me, it's like we got worse than that playing football. So it was like I knew how to take criticism. Like, all right, cool. I want to be good at this. This guy has striated glutes. I know I need to learn how to get that. That's my goal. This sport is, and I'm very harsh when I say it, but bodybuilding is one of those sports where it's like you ask people when they start, why they started. They'll say, I didn't make the team. It didn't fit in. They didn't get the girl. They got bullied, right? And those are all good reasons. I'm not taking away those are all good. Those are all good reasons to strive for something, to find who you are. The problem is no one really does. So they get into this sport and they get into it, and instead of them finding themselves and working on self-awareness and mindfulness and whatnot, they are told they look really good. So the really good bodybuilders who are insecure already, who didn't make the team, who just had really good physique, like some guys who aren't ready to play football have great bodybuilding physiques. So they end up being good bodybuilders or whatever. And then when someone critiques them, they're like, they revisit almost like back in high school again, or where they weren't cool. And they're like, oh my God, someone's challenged me. This guy reminds me of the guy in high or what. And a lot of that kind of shit came up with that podcast with Mike and I forget the Diary of a CEO. And he was saying stuff, and I was watching him. I'm like, oh my God, this is prime example of the guy who didn't make or got picked on or got bullied, and then took on powerlifting or bodybuilding, and that was their safe space. And then all of a sudden, when they're challenged, they get kind of like this. They get triggered again, and they show exactly who they are. Because you look at any posts in bodybuilding, bodybuilders, top bodybuilders will comment at some kind of like a troll or whatever, and I'm like, I've never seen like Tom Brady go on the comments and be like, what are you talking about? I popped when I deflated the ball. So, piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Interesting observation.
So I have a theory too. I'd be curious what you. It's because it's interesting. You said you came from football. You came from, and then you sort of. It seems like a lot of people who got into bodybuilding, into the weight room, it's like you said, they were 14, 15, they were getting bullied, and then they found the weight room, or they decide, like, if I can build, a gorilla suit of muscular armor, it will protect me against all the big meanie heads in the world. And they build that big. The thing is, deep down, because I have never seen a larger proportion, this goes to your point about the trolling, of just unbelievably insecure people than just in the fitness industry in general. And I swear to God, dude, the bigger they are, the worse it gets. Like, you've got these big, like Paul Carter is a great example. This dude will go proactively block anybody who likes a comment that's critical of him. This big giant 260-pound dude, however big he is now, and he is one of the biggest babies you will. He talks to me in game. It's like, tread lightly, and another guy told me, he's like, stand down, son. It's like, are you 12? Like, for God's sakes, you're a 40-year-old man. Grow the fuck up. But I think that's why they think, if I get big and muscular, nobody can hurt me anymore. But deep down, in their head, in their brain, they are still that same and that's why they respond like this. If you say anything negative, it triggers them. Like, that's the perfect word. And they're like, you're my 14-year-old bully who hurt my feelings. And like, dude, you're 40. It's time. It's time to grow up, because you're right. It won't fix them, but they think it will.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Very much. And I like what it's almost like he's saying, it's a suit. It is a suit. It's a mask. Yeah. It's something to hide behind. Well, and
well, do you remember the bodybuilder named Bob Paris? He was back in the day, and he actually wrote a book, because he was gay but couldn't be out in the 80s, because that was a different time. I'm old, I remember. And he wrote that book, and it was called Gorilla Suit. And that's where I got the term. And he was like, he was trying to protect himself from a world that was very unfriendly to him. And that's what I see altogether too often.
Yeah. I mean, I could be deeper in that, but hey, I don't know how dark I need to get here, or real. I'm more real than anything else.
Hit it.
The thing is, like, it's just like anything else when it comes to, if we're looking at for rating genetics or just societal norms, we all work on a bell curve. And whether you're either one standard, two standard deviations away from the norm. And the norm, unfortunately, is out of shape, insecure, uneducated. You know, it's just unfortunate. That's just society. Like I took sociology, university, and criminology, so it's all my study, right? So it's like that's just what it is. It's just that when you look at the norm, it's just that's what it is. Unfortunately, and depending on where you're at in the world, you'll have more people who are more obese than others. But when it comes down to it, the majority of people they're not as active, they're not as secure, they're not as there's not. And when you have someone on YouTube who can they can be somebody completely different. They can come on here and not only they're bodybuilders, they look really good. I can be what I want because there's not someone the other day was like, how it's so hard to be on YouTube. I'm like, not necessarily because like no one's in front of you. You're not in a room with anybody. You're in front of a camera, and that's it. And then when you post whatever you post and do all the edits, and you can be that person that you decide you want to make up, and then when it's challenged, then you start to see those true colors. But unfortunately, most of the people who are following are kind of similar, so they find their heroes in people who are not true heroes, so to speak. Now, I'm not like I can already see people taking my words like, oh my god, no, look. And this is on everybody, right? Almost like, and we can talk about Mike as well too. Mike's got great information. He's got some good information that's out there. You know, for someone who want to get in shape, it's there, right? Cool. I'm not going to take that away from him at all. He worked his butt off to get there and made money. Awesome. But people make heroes into people who are not true heroes to themselves, right? So the person that they're like they admire is this like, this person is so confident. He's got his shit together. He's got a business. He's got millions of subscribers. He's got a business that's booming. That guy is the epitome of what I want to be. And then you realize that guy that you're following is an insecure little boy still. He's a girl that was fat, that got in shape, and she's still fat in her head.
Yep.
Totally. I just want to comment on this pervasiveness of insecurities that we see among bodybuilders. These insecurities can run very deep, and they can cause competitors to make significant decisions, let's say, about their bodies. And I think a very current example of this involves Mike, who recently underwent liposuction for his love handles that store a lot of water, according to him.
I have like big love handles that store a lot of water from back when I got fat on purpose to try to like do the spirit bulk. And so I'm probably going to get them cut off.
And he also got low back skin removal. Lyle and I made a video critiquing that decision from a competitive bodybuilding lens. And Jonni, you left a comment under that video. You wouldn't mind if I read it in full, would you? Because I really do think it deserves to be read.
Right.
I've got it here. So you wrote, I personally told Mike what he needed to do with receipts, and he wrote me off. I told him steps aren't as effective as zone 2 cardio. I told him to diet a bit harder, and I offered to help him with posing. Mike replied saying I was soliciting my coaching when I offered the same free help to Eric Janicki, and Eric took it. Why? I'm a pro and one of the best posing coaches, and Mike got mad. I have all the proof. Mike didn't need surgery. He doesn't know how to work hard. Surgery will not get him striated glutes, nor a flatter stomach, nor stage-ready conditioning. Mike is paying top dollar for shortcuts that will leave him exactly where he is, but this time with scars. Print that. Jonni, I'm very happy to print that.
Yeah.
Those are some fighting words.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it took some time to write that. Like, I mean, I wasn't like, I wasn't like, really like, meditating on it, but I was like, I just want to be clear, because I have a client of mine. I coach people. Here's the thing. I coach people. I've coached people for 20 years. And I love evidence. Evidence-based is great, awesome. But when you're getting your degree, you're not coaching anybody. So there's no anecdotal anything you're going through with somebody.
Yeah.
It's hard. You're just not, right?
Don't have to apologize.
Right. So I have a client who sent me a check-in. And the check-in, I did this video, I haven't posted yet, it's actually edited. he sent me a check-in, and he has loose skin. I was like, oh my god, and not like, oh my god, surprised, because I've seen anything like there's nothing you can surprise me when you show me. I was surprised because you're so confident. Because I don't tell anybody they have to give me a topless check-in. You can send me check-ins with what you're comfortable in. I know how to rate physique, etc. From metrics and whatnot, yada yada. But I was taken back in a way where I was like, you are so confident. This guy's got 100 pounds of loose skin, 100%.
Wow.
Like I'm talking like one of those guys who have lost a lot of weight and they're left with loose skin, like a lot of loose skin. And I was like, this guy deserves all of this liposuction, and like not liposuction. He did it because he did the hard work. He deserves all of the money in the world to get his skin, the skin surgery removed. 100%. That is a go do that. So when Mike did it, I'm like, and then what pissed me off was like, it's harder than dieting. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? That's like
it's only harder than dieting if you never actually get.
It's not hard to diet. Like stop the nonsense. Like I have a client who she does not have glute genetics. She's 51 right now. She's not of glute genetics whatsoever. She's the type of woman that sit on a chair and slide off. That's no glutes. She has the work she put on the last 4 years. She has amazing glutes, absolutely stunning, and not just like amazing for her age. I'm talking like she's putting 30-year-olds to shame, right?
Wow.
On average, we calculated how many reps she did, and it's like you did around 40,000 reps of leg day to get your glutes. Are you telling me a BBL is harder than that?
Right. Yeah, for real.
Like, shut up. And then for made me mad about that is like to put that rhetoric out there to that message to be like some guy that's working their ass off, they just can't get shit, just trying their hardest to get shit right, is gonna watch a guy like Mike and be like, dieting lipo is harder than dieting. It's like someone's like, if Mike can't do it, there's no way in hell I'm doing it. I gotta get surgery done. And I'm looking at pictures like, where the hell is, I'm like, what picture do I see from any competition, from anything do I see justification of surgery being done in that area? Number one, zero. I see none. But again, none of that was the issue when he competed. It wasn't like he had striated glutes and and lines of stripes in his legs. He was thick skin, but he had unfortunate loose skin on his sides.
Right.
So
well, that's when Solomon and I talked about that. Like, okay, because I think he and I, and maybe you differ. Like, plastic surgery is expensive, it's invasive, but people get it all the time. Like, judging someone on that alone, I think is unfair. But
yes,
if he thinks that that's going to be what takes him to the next level, like, okay, you use yourself as an example. Someone's a bodybuilder, they are consistently top 2, and it's like they've got whatever a little problem area that is consistently holding them back. Yeah, if that's going to be the last piece of the puzzle, and maybe it's calf implants. Like you mentioned the genetic thing, and I am of the opinion of all the sports, bodybuilding is probably the most genetic, because the muscle bellies you were born with, right?
Bar none.
The muscle bellies, like in football, you can play a different position. You can make up for one characteristic. If you don't have the speed, you can have the strength. If you don't, I was an endurance athlete. If you're a cyclist, well, maybe you can't be a great climber, but you can, there are options. And in bodybuilding, if you don't have the right insertions, if you don't have the right tie-ins, you can only get so far. And there is nothing you can do. There is no amount of work you can do to fix high calves or bad bicep, period. If your lats insert high, tough. Maybe if you are freak show in every other component, but Mike he's worrying about the wrong thing. I used to know endurance athletes, cyclists, they would spend $10,000 to get a bike frame that was half a pound lighter. And meanwhile, they're carrying 20 pounds of extra body fat because it's easier to buy equipment than it is to do the work. Right. And this isn't going to be the game changer. Now, maybe to Solomon's point, maybe he's got some deep-seated insecurity about that, and that's a different motivation, and that's fine. But if he thinks that this is going to be the key, I mean, obviously the tan was the problem. We all know deep down that was the real problem. But that's not what's going to take him to get his pro card, which he's been chasing for how many years now?
We competed the same years.
Oh, okay.
Perspective. I started competing at 28.
How old are you now?
Wow.
I'm 42 this year.
Okay, and you competed for what, a decade?
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
So we basically started at the same time. And to agree and make it very clear, I'm all for self-beautification. I am all for it. I am all for it. I believe, you know, women, go get your booty, go get your boobies done, go get your face. Men, I don't care. Go get it done, 100%. If it makes you happy, for sure. But be clear about what that is, for sure. You know what I mean? Like, and even in bodybuilding, like I've used hyaluronic acid in my biceps and my shoulders.
Oh wow! Okay.
For one prep, 100%. I did. I got no problem saying that, right?
Sure.
It was a bitch. It hurt. It made a difference. it made a little bit of difference, but like, when it came down to it, just like to nail your point even more, it's like it doesn't matter how good. Like I am blessed to have very good genetics to be a bodybuilder. If I would have used steroids even more, I would have been. Like I'm not going to place top 5 at Mass Olympia and not be good and not have genetics. So right. I know how good I am. But there's just some guys. There's like Keon Pearson. It's like, sorry, I'm not going to be that guy. Like but I can maybe edge him in other classes or other, you know, with size and whatnot, etc. But bodybuilding is 100% genetics. Like there's nothing you can do about it. And another thing's even more. I am rooting for Mike. I don't like. I told him, I'm like, I made a point in a video. I'm like, because Greg was being really Greg in one of his videos, and I was like, I'm like, Mike doesn't have a terrible physique. Mike could win his pro card eventually at the right show, at a Masters. If Mike gets absolutely peeled, right? Yeah. He's not this like mixed max physique he's not a Mr. Potato Head that has a terrible. I'm saying Mike can get his pro card eventually, somehow, because this is like I've seen people get pro cards who probably should not have pro cards. I'm sorry, I've done this long enough now. I'm seeing people get their pro card and placing dead last, not going anywhere with it because they did a show that had nobody in it. You know, if Mike goes down to the Master Olympia in Brazil and does Masters, he can win his pro card. I'm sorry, but that is a possibility. If he does really well at one point at North Americans, they give a pro card at every class. So if he does the 40-something plus Masters and does really well, which the older you get, the less competitive it gets, he can win his pro card. So yes,
you listening, Mike?
But he hasn't shown that he can do any of the things to actually get him a pro card.
Right.
And he's not making any of the right moves to get him a pro card.
Yes. So I mean, and that's just like that. And it's funny, Mike, yes, we are being critical. There's no doubt about it. But it is like coming from a position, like we did a podcast with Greg, and he said the same thing. And he's like, and he and I were very much in terms of what we thought Mike needed. But yes, I mean, I wish he would listen. I would like to see him succeed, because just to keep banging your head again, but he's not going to. He's going to hear all of this. He's going to hear you as a top pro, as a coach, or Greg, who was a pro and who's a judge. If there's anyone you're going to listen to about what your physique is lacking, you'd think it would be an IFBB judge.
Me and Greg both got our judging.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Together.
Right.
We both did together.
And that's like, I worked with the guy as a natural and he did well. Then I'm like, make sure and ask the judges for feedback. So you can know that's how you get better in the long run. That's who I like to work with. It's like they need to, like, things happen, whatever. Right. You didn't get there, you fix it next time. Every time I read one of Mike's physique, competition reports, when he's not just making excuses, I needed to have dieted a little bit longer. Why aren't you starting earlier? Like, how many times does it take to make new mistakes at least? Right? Yeah. Like, don't just keep making the same damn mistake over and over and over again when you're like, I should have started earlier. Well, there's an easy solution to that. Don't get so sloppy in the off season and start earlier. Because you can always slow a prep down. It's very, very hard to speed it up.
Yeah. I don't let coaching for me, I don't let when it comes to, when we want to do a show, it's like, we're not doing a show until you can we can easily do a show in 15 pounds,
Yeah.
20 max, right? And you're not getting 15, 20 pounds more in the off season.
Right.
And that's something that anyone who I'm competing coaching in terms of like, bodybuilding, they are in good shape in the off season. You
Right.
should be able to do a nice photo shoot. You don't have to be a striated 6-pack, but you should be in striking distance of doing a show.
Right.
And and coasting in with 16 weeks of prep. Right. And if you're, and again, I'll take somebody that's in and we'll I have a few clients right now that are natural, like a bunch of natural clients, but it's they're getting in shape slowly. I'm like, I don't even want you thinking about prep whatsoever. I don't want you thinking you've been in an 80 week prep.
Right.
To get yourself in shape. We're going to lose fat slowly so it's sustainable. We're going to build muscles at the same time. And then once we have you in striking distance and we made some good improvements, then we're going to look for doing a show. And that's what we'll do from there. And you're not getting on stage if you're not peeled, because this is bodybuilding. Like, I'm tired of people getting they get offended. It's like, look, this is a show where you're getting judged. You're getting judged. Sorry that some of the judges are nicer than we are, but they should be a little more, harsh, to be honest.
And it's funny. I remember Dan Duchesne years ago. He even said that. He said, look, especially for naturals, it's like, do not get above 12% in the off season because it will make dieting down. Now this is before guys were doing 6 month preps. This was before naturals needed to have striated glutes. The levels of conditioning then just weren't what it is now, but that makes it that much more critical, right? Like, there are people doing 6 month preps. Now, some of it is, I personally think they prep inefficiently, and that's a whole separate, it's neither here nor there. But if you're up at 20% in the off season, good luck. I mean, even with props, you're going to need way more than 4 months.
Right.
And especially to get that last little bit, to get that tiny last little bit of extreme conditioning, because at this point, this goes back to the genetics thing. Like, okay, if you don't have, and this is true of any sport, if you don't have the best genetics, hard work will get you to a certain point.
Yeah.
If you're lazy and you're not a hard worker, genetics will get you to a certain point. But to get to the top, you got to have both.
Right.
Like, there's no way, nobody genetically has striated glutes, but you can do that. Like I said, to your point, if Mike would come in just terrifyingly conditioned, just like lean, like he looked like, there was a magazine years ago and somebody wrote, I think he was writing about Corey Everson. She was so lean you could see the mitochondria, which, okay, bullshit, but like it was ridiculous. It was Twin Lab selling L-carnitine, but whatever. And it was like, if he would come in absolutely shredded, if he would come in and just have his posing dialed, he could maybe just if you can just blind the judges with how lean the thing is, there's going to be guys just as conditioned at the top who have the lines, who have the shape, but you have to make up for it with something. But he said, I don't like posing. Dude, that's part of your sport. It's honestly on stage. Let me just before we move on any further, because people listen to this, okay? The posing is the skill that you're getting judged. Do you watch football, hockey, baseball, soccer, and people can't catch puck hand, that's posing is literally the thing that you're being judged on. You can make your physique look better by being a better poser. Sure.
I got my guy's pro card by changing we just got a pro card last year. I've been coaching for 8 years. He's been top classic physique in the tallest class. He's won first place, I don't know how many goddamn times. He's won maybe second, maybe twice.
Nice. And
the last time I'm like, guys, I messaged the judges. I know. I'm like, hey, what do we got to do? What's going on? And he's like, maybe he just needs to go to bodybuilding, But I'm like, so you telling me that everyone he's been beating for the last years should be a bodybuilder too? It's got to be some. It's like, well, maybe you can think about changing some of his posing, because he poses a certain way. He poses where he kind of sometimes put his foot slightly in front on an angle tilt back, and it did help with his waist going up. And I'm like, let's do more of the classic kind of lean a little bit. You gotta open your quads up a little more, your legs, show more of your adductor, get your quadriceps a little on the outside to enhance your X frame. Wins his pro card the next show.
Yeah.
So it's the best posers, and it is yes,
your physique is your physique, but bodybuilding is, with posing, you can make an illusion. If you've got weak calves, you have to figure out how to put, if you've got weak hamstrings, you put that back leg in and you push, so it pushes the ham. Like, you learn those tricks to emphasize your strong points and to hide or de-emphasize the weak point. And that's where the art of posing comes in. But for Mike to go, I don't care about posing and I can't do a front double biceps, I'm like, why?
That excruciating pain.
Why would you
smartest coach? You can't be the smartest coach in the world. You can't have a raw IQ smarter than anyone else, and that's your mindset.
I'm both on a raw IQ scale smarter than almost every coach, maybe every coach.
I don't give a fuck. You can't.
No,
you can't say I can. I don't. Man, I want to be the best pitcher, but I don't know how to throw a fastball.
So he says he can hit it, but just not the way everyone else does, because it puts him in excruciating pain.
If I try to flare my right, I get excruciating pain in my glenohumeral joint.
He did that thing with a guy basically enabling his bullshit, where he's like, why I'm so hard to coach. And it's just like, because you're an egotistical megalomaniac narcissist who thinks you're smarter than everyone despite objective facts that you're not. Because you'd rather argue with people than listen to experience. I'm not saying it's me, but for him to ignore you is absurd. But it's not even not being able to. He doesn't want to learn how. If a pitcher was like, look, I've never really learned how to throw a knuckleball, but I want to learn. And his pitching coach would be like, okay, for the next 6 months, we're gonna do nothing. Like, that's what we're gonna fix. Mike is not just saying I can't do it. He's saying I don't want to learn how because I don't care about it. Dude, that's your sport. When you're on stage, right? Bodybuilding's always been so funny to me because it's the only sport where what you do most of the year has nothing to do with what you actually do on stage, right? It's not like the old days where you had to do a clean and press, like back in the early bodybuilding in the early 20th. Clean and press was part of the bodybuilding show. Those guys had to train. They had to be able to do at least that. It's just, you weight train to get big. You contest prep is dieting, but posing is what you actually do during the competition. And to go, I don't care about probably the most important part of my performance package is, I don't know if it's copium. I don't know what the logic is, but like, it would be like, to your point, of an athlete going, I can't catch worth a shit, but I don't really want to learn. And your football coach would go, cool, bye, go be a sprinter. Go run track. If you don't want to learn the skills of your sport, get the fuck out.
Like the draft just happened. The what do you call it? The draft happened with the combine. Yeah. Like, I don't want to learn around a 40 properly.
Yeah, it's not that important. It's like,
and it's just funny, given that he claims to have such an extraordinarily high amount of willpower. Remember, he mentioned that he wanted to reply to his critics by saying, "You've never met anyone with as much willpower as me. Whatever it is you think you're good at in your life, I'd probably take about a year and become an authority in the field in which you think you're good."
You've never met anyone with as much willpower as me. And whatever it is you think you're good at in your life, I'd probably take about a year and become an authority in the field in which you think you're good.
Remember that? I remember in a video, Jonni, you had a pretty strong reaction to that. Do you reckon Mike displays the very high amount of willpower he claims to have?
Willpower, you don't have to have good genetics to get peeled. Like that is literally that is literally the epitome of willpower in action, is being peeled on stage.
Right. You can either go the distance and make it to stage, and a lot of people don't. I mean, and okay, so he used retatrutide, right? He used one of the GLP-1 drugs, which I think is going to change the nature of the sport. And that's a whole separate thing. But it's like, look, if you have the willpower, why are you relying on an appetite suppressant?
Look,
right? Naturally get there, and they just suck it up, right? They just have to deal.
I'll be clear. I'll be straight. I'll tell you. I've been in prep. I've done T3 at once. T3, Clen, GW, Frag, Letrozole, Proviron. All things to aid. But I was still doing hours of cardio.
It's
hours.
It's to facilitate the work.
Right.
And I think bodybuilding is also very different than all other sports in that, to a degree, right? If you're a powerlifter, lots of powerlifters use drugs, but you still have to put in the work. You still have to put in cyclists still have to put in the yards, right? But bodybuilding, again, is a sport. Okay, if you've hit a plateau, don't fix your training, don't fix your diet, just up your dose, just
Right.
add a new drug. And I think that's where Greg was coming from. And it's funny, you know, Greg, 50-year-old Greg, it's like, I don't like, yeah, 20-year-old Greg wouldn't have listened to 50-year-old Greg any more than 22-year-old Jonni would have listened to 40, like whatever. We grow up and we learn and we change our opinions and we think people will listen to us, and kids never listen to anything because they learn the hard way. But it's like, yeah, in bodybuilding, and I'm also, I don't know, well, you came out of the sport where you had done the training. I do think there's an argument to be made for like, learn to train and eat naturally, because drugs can cover up so many mistakes.
Right.
And it's not true. That's not true in any other sport.
Right.
And it leads to a mindset of, oh, I'm not growing, I'll just take an extra gram. Can't get lean. But if you're not doing the diet, those drugs can't overcome that. Your point, or you end up with such mega doses that you end up as part of the dead pool. And we're seeing more of that, right? People are just, the doses I'm seeing, people report like, fine, we don't know what anybody took in the 80s. They were all probably lying about it, but it wasn't 3.5 grams of anabolics with clen, T3, GH, insulin, IGF-1, God knows what peptides, all this, like the levels now. But to be 320 and ripped, it is part of the sport, and it always will be. But you have to do it and still do the work. I think a lot of people do it instead of doing the work.
And I think that's where where Mike lies in that class of, you know, I'm gonna do like I said, I'm not like, I understand what's part of, like, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do, like, I would, like, if I'm gonna do a show, if I'm gonna do a show again, I'm like, I'm not doing it though, GW, that shit's amazing. That's awesome. That was awesome, but it makes my cardio easier. So it's not like it's replace my cardio. And I say this to everyone I coach, like, if you decide to do steroids and you're gonna do a show, it's not to replace your hard work, it's to it's to enhance it.
Yeah, it's to optimize it. Yeah, it's to get, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Because then the results are like, when I'm prescribing, so to speak, or you know, making a cycle or not, it's, these things are done out like at the right time. I don't pre-plan cycles. Here's what we are probably going to do and how your physique is reacting, and we are burning fat and losing. We're burning fat by nutrition and moving, and then once we hit certain points, we will add something small that's going to give us our best bang for a buck for the shortest period of time we can use it. So it's a dose duration thing, and it's a timing thing. And as long as I learned from Greg, and it's almost like, you know, when to play your cards, I always took it to the to also level of, like, it's like, you know, what's that show? Fast and Furious. Like, we pull the NOS at the right time. We don't pull it right out of the gate. Yeah, let's go. And all of a sudden, you're all shit. Then homeboy passes, and you're like, oh, damn it, right? It's a timing thing, but it's also like the groundwork is put in first. Like, that needs to be put in, and it's just, you know, that's my
I've got a sort of a tangent question, because I think it ties into this. What makes a coachable athlete? So someone comes to you, Jonni, and says, okay, I want to be the best in the world. I want to be, you know, I want to get a pro card or win a show, whether it, well, not, you know, I want to win a natural show. I want to be the, what other than genetics, right? You look at what are their muscle bellies, what's their shape. I imagine you're probably very good. You have to be realistic, and you have to go, look, you can get to a certain point. You will never get far. Like, I'm a big believer in reality checking, folks. But from a, not just a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, what do you look for that would define for you a coachable athlete? That's someone that you're actually willing to work with, because you know that they're going to do the work.
Very easy for me. And when someone says, because I wait for it, because I'm very, like, I'm waiting for him to say, I want to win, or I want to get a pro card, whatever. And then I ask him, you know, like, I ask him certain questions, and I'll see if at the end, what are they willing to do? Like, if you're going to tell me that you want to win a pro card, I'm like, okay, you want to say, okay, you said it enough. Cool. You want first place. Okay, fine. So you're not asking me how much cardio can I do. You're asking me how much can I do? Not how much do I have to do. It's not a have to, it's what can I do? How much more can I do? That's the mentality I'm looking for. What are you willing to do, right? To get to where not like, do I have to do this, or like, you know, I will. That's that, you know, that kind of stuff. But then also like the also having a realistic like first impression of me as well too. If you come to me and say I want my pro card and you don't look like you're gonna anywhere near get your pro card, you're delusional. You're not gonna get your pro card. And I'll be honest with you, like, you're not getting your pro card, sorry. But like again, when it comes to getting peeled for a show, so it's an attitude thing of like, you know, do you know where you actually are in terms of like, do you have any awareness at all? Number one. Two, are you willing to work? Like, what are you what's that conversation like when we're talking about, because I like playing the therapist with when I have like consults with people. I'll sit there and talk, and I'll say something, sit back and listen to them talk, and I'll write notes down, and they'll say, yeah, I'll try this, I'll try that, and the other. I'm like, you know what's funny? You didn't mention anything about cardio.
Right.
You know, you try to lose weight and you mentioned why I hate cardio. You don't want to work.
Do you find that in the modern era, I mean, social media, like I said, I'm old. I've watched the internet develop. I'm from the bodybuilding magazines and stuff. Do you find that people have an unrealistic idea of what's truly required? Like, do they think that they're just going to come in and float along and get to where they want to be without putting in the work?
100%. It's 100%. It's number one, it's the league's fault. I'm going to say it straight up. And I respect the league 100%, but I say it's the league's fault mainly because they have made the journey to becoming a pro manageable for people. When I did the Arnold Amateur, you had to be top 5 in your respected federation, right? So you couldn't just show up. Now it's like, you can go.
Yeah.
We're going. So it gives a false pretense to someone that they can just, you know, oh, I went to the Arnold Amateur, so I can do it. It's like, no, you didn't do anything to get there. Like, just because you got to this show that used to be a prestige show for you to get to as an amateur, now you can show up and you have this idea like, I'm there, I'm close. It's like, no, you're not close. Like, I'm watching people that are in the area that are, you know, power to them. I know a couple competitors who are working their ass off. I'm talking, they're the best they've ever looked. They're putting the hard fucking work in their peel. They're awesome. They'll never get out of 16th place. The fact that they're 16th, the fact that you can be 16th 10 times in a pro lineup. You go to Olympia, there's 30 people on the fucking stage.
Yeah.
So it gives people ideas like, I can do it. I mean, it's in your face. You're seeing, you know, I have 2 pages. I got my Instagram, I have my bodybuilding one for whatever, then I have my one with my brother, my DJ. I flip to that one and it's fucking peace. It's like, oh my god, this is awesome over here.
Yeah.
You go to the other side, it's like, what the?
I listened to some of your DJing, Johnny. You're a man of many talents.
But I think it's the same thing. Like, you know, every band, and I know, like, you hear musicians talk about this, and they're like, things like American Idol and all that stuff. They're like, these bands back in the day. I watched this documentary about Twisted Sister. These guys played every day for years before they broke. Like, they busted their absolute ass. And these, you know, I think it was one of the Nirvana drummer whose name I now forget. And he was like, yeah, everybody thinks that they can just show up and be a rock star and get a deal. And I don't know if social media's promoted that, but yeah, I've got a buddy who was a bodybuilder, very, very successful back in the day. And he's like, when he was competing, he was like, it was hard. You had to win, you know, like you said, take top 5 in, you know, a low level show, and then take top 5. Like, you had to work your way up to even be eligible. And then you'd move up to the next level. You'd get your shit wrecked, because to win a natural show, I got tricked into judging a natural show once years ago. And like, any class, there were 3 guys that looked great, that knew what they were doing. There were 3 guys that you swear to God didn't have a gym membership, and then everybody else was in the middle. Like, they were okay. So, you know, you're the top of the and you get your pro card, and then you move up and you get everybody at that next level is that much better. And then as you get higher and higher, everybody's got all the pieces of the puzzle. And if you don't bring something truly unique, and nobody's the same. I know there was a big complaint about last year's Olympia, and they're like, the guy who won wasn't as conditioned as, and whatever. At that level, man, it's you're splitting a tenth of, and it's like, I think they're more conditioned, but I think they've got this, and it's like, it's such a judgment call, which is why people complain. It's not like other sports where it's like either one or you're lost, kind of. But yeah, I just have to wonder. I've also always found this really bizarre. Bodybuilding especially, right? Like even back in the day before the internet, I remember before the internet, people would show up to contests. It's like, you know what you're supposed to look like. You must have the magazines. Like, fine, you're the best bodybuilder in your little BFE town that you live in, but you must know, you have an idea of what you're supposed to look like. You must be able to look in the mirror and go, you know what? I don't just not have abs, I don't have ab. And then you get backstage and everyone peels down and you're like, you have to just go, it's not like going to run a marathon and being happy that you did it. Like, you don't go to a bodybuilding show to not look good. And in the internet era, it's inconceivable to me that people don't have an idea of what's expected.
You have a right to compete at any show. It's your. I don't agree with it. I'm sorry. Like,
okay, got it.
Stop that. Like, stop it. You know, stop it. Like, sure, pick up basketball on a Friday. You have the right to go and play.
Right.
Fine. But this is something where everyone's like, you know, there's respect the sport in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, if everyone has a right to do it, cool. Then come and do what's required.
Right.
To get there. Right. My last two, like, the year before I won my pro card, man, it was me and Chris Bumstead, and like one year I beat him, one year the next year he beat me. Then he had to win his pro card at nationals. I mean, at North Americans. Like, every year we compete, we knew who was showing up.
Right.
So like we had a lineups of guys who you knew was showing up. Like, man, I know this year this guy's competing. I'm killing myself.
Right.
Like, I know who's showing up. Now it's like, I can go here and win a show, or I can go here and compete, and I have the right to be here, and I should be able to go on stage and look nothing. How dare you say he doesn't have a right to? No, you have a right to be there for sure, but go play. Like if you go show up for an open, pickup hockey game, and you want to go on someone's team and you can't skate, sure, you have a right to be there, but like, come on.
Well, and there are like other activities. There are recreational versions. There are recreational 10K runners that want to go get a t-shirt. But again, bodybuilding is just this. Powerlifting's the same way. People, if you show up and you squat 135 and you just show up and do it, you are cheer because you're not. That's fine. You can do it recreational. Mike once said this was his pre-excuse. This was a couple of years ago before a show that he knew he wasn't going to be ready for. He's like, I just do this for fun. Oh, bullshit. Nobody goes through contest prep for fun, right? You run a marathon for fun. You run a 10K for fun. You play pickup basketball for fun. You play rec hockey for fun. You do not put yourself through the rigors of contest prep.
On this topic,
fun.
Lyle, I want to go back to something Jonni mentioned earlier on the topic of sort of people's motives for competing in bodybuilding.
Yes.
I want to win. I want a pro card. Jonni, I know you have some thoughts about Mike's stated reason for competing in bodybuilding, which is the only reason I compete is to illustrate to people marginally more than they would otherwise believe that the methods that we espouse at Renaissance periodization are effective.
The only reason I compete is to illustrate to people that marginally more than they would otherwise believe the methods that we espouse at Renaissance periodization are effective. Given
his competition results, Jonni, I believe you likened his remark to a surgeon with a trail of botched surgeries. So in other words, you basically think Mike's statement there backfired. Or what do you think it actually showed?
It doesn't work. Like, it's the proof's in the pudding. Like, it's very clear. It's and it's like it's just crazy that I don't defend myself, but I'll see in comments like, how dare you say Mike's this, and I was like, I respect that Mike has an education in his field, right? If you are a exercise scientist, your actual job is probably physiotherapist. That's what you do. That you go to school for. As an exercise scientist, that degree, you become a physiotherapist, right? Which is fine. But to make your entire, I'm going here to show that my philosophies are better than Jonni's or Greg's or Neil Hill have been coached by, or Matt Jansen have been coached by, or Pachatura have been coached by. I can believe that Y3T works, right? It's a training system. Do I believe it's the training system only? No, but his ability to coach somebody and him taking on those things and that person, you know, getting results shows that, you know, Neil's training and his philosophies and his coaching style works.
Right.
So does Patrick Tours. So does Matt Jensen's. So does Chris Cormier's. So does Greg Doucette's. But when Mike says that, it's like, it doesn't. You just, now if you say, hey, man, you can get strong and build some muscle and stuff like everybody else that's doing hypertrophy, cool.
Sure.
Like there's nothing. But when you put that up in the bodybuilding realm where it's a actions only, because you could talk all you want, it's an actions only thing, and you come up with those kind of results, then everyone has the right to judge that statement alone and be like, then your systems don't work. On top of that, if you're an exercise scientist, shouldn't you be trying to prove your points by science?
Right.
I'm just so like, you know, your scientific,
not a bodybuilding stage.
Findings and would be the result of why you're successful or why your clients make whatever. Again, shouldn't it be science? But like everybody at the RP, majority who are showcasing it are on steroids.
Yeah, well, that's Mike plays a cute game, and I don't want to get too far off on this, where he's a scientist when it suits him, and he's a big ass bro when it suits him.
Look,
right? So he's like, science, science, science. And then I go, well, actually, the science says this. And he's like, well, I'm bigger and bench more than you. Like, pick one, right? Like, pick. I don't care which one you pick.
Are the big guys good sources of info? Probably not. And they certainly don't know more than the science nerds in the industry.
But like, again, Paul Carter, who's just a mouthpiece for Chris Beardsley now. And he's like, science, 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 till you prove him wrong. And he goes, stand down, son. Tread lightly because I will, you know, and then he personally attacks you and then he blocks you. And it's like, dude, either be a bro or be a scientist, but don't play both sides against the middle. And to your point, like if you're going to call your shot, there was a sprinter at the last Olympics and he was like, yeah, I'm going to outrun Usain Bolt. It's like, dude, you're not within 0.3 of Usain Bolt. If you're going to call your shot like that, you better be able to back it up. Right. When those crazy ass MMA guys and they talk shit, like, well, you better be able to back it up. Because if you don't, you're going to be a laughing stock. And he's awfully confident when, like, okay, you could argue maybe the methods work and he just can't make. But has RP ever produced a winning bodybuilder that you are aware of?
I mean, like, I would say Jared, but
does Jared really train? I know his his anabolics coach, and it's sure as shit not RP.
Well, and that's the thing when I talk about like RP to begin with. When it comes down to it, it's like I was doing one of Mike's courses when we started when we were climbing together. I'm like, I'm doing my courses. I like to, you know, like I am the guy that's like will be forever a student, and whatever you're learning, I know what you're doing different over there. Right. And I'm like, this is hypertrophy. What do you got? This is hypertrophy. What do you stop it? Like, and there's more metrics into, you know, gauging your output and whatnot. I can tell you it doesn't work because I have clients. Right. Who, let me tell you this. I have clients who have, I can pull their and they're literally like, it's almost like being in an abusive relationship, John. It's like, not that they were abusive to them, but they're coming out of this. When I'm like, you know, I'll coach them up. They'll send me videos of them training, and I'll go through their form, help them with their form, etc. I'm also judging how they actually train in terms of like their intensity. Yep. And every question is like, is it really training more than 6 sets is actually blah blah blah? Is it RPE whatever? Is it RR whatever? I'm like, it's like, am I really actually training hard? I'm like, look, if you're thinking if you're training hard or not, you're not training that hard. They were coached by Mino Henselman and some other RP guys, whatever. And then I'm like, send me videos, like you should be. Watch the videos. I'm like, you have 5 reps. Yeah. Every exercise. Yep. And then they start watching like, oh my God, you're right. And I'm like, and she's like, and they're in I don't want to give a name, but the person was so like baffled that when they watched it, like, you're so right. I've been like doing this for so many years. I've been following for so long. And I'm doing, deloads. I'm having scheduled deloads. And I'm like, when do you deload for what? When did you deload? People, and the thing is, like, people don't know how to evidence-based stuff is great. It's awesome. It's good. It's good findings, whatever. But it puts people. For me, it's almost like the new quick. It's a new quick pill. It's like, I don't have to train this hard. I don't have to lift this much. I could take longer breaks and get results. It's like, no, you can't. Right. No, you can't. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've coached hundreds of people. I don't say thousands because I coach hundreds of people for many of years.
Right.
And I've seen the process of someone starting with not much muscle at all, a newbie who's fat, who's now has great muscle and is no longer fat. Whether they're women or men, I've seen people who have great, pretty good training habits, who have a bunch of injuries, who now have better overall physique and less injuries. I've brought them through the process over and over. I've seen what, training over time, consistency and optimization, it does. Most people do not train hard at all.
Agreed.
So to tell somebody rate of perceived exertion, the main word in that is perceived. Yeah. Perception is reality. Like and I tell people, I'm not telling you that you're not training hard. I'm not telling you that I don't believe that you think you're not, that you I believe you're training hard. 100% I do. But you're not being, no one's challenged you to. No one's pushed you to the limit. So unless you have that natural grit, when most people don't have grit, they're always gonna think they're training hard. So when you tell someone who thinks they're training hard that they only have to train 3 reps to failure, it's like, what's their failure? Well, when they get a little bit of a pump, they get 8 to 10 reps, and they get to the 7, like, oh my god, it hurts a bit. 8, all right, let me put the weight down. And it's like your rep speed didn't change whatsoever. Why are you putting the weight down?
Well, that's if you made, this is what, however many years ago, this is what started, the big beef between Mike and I, where I was like, look, what you're telling people, 0 reps in reserve, which might as well be is not even close, Mike. Like, your bar speed is never slowing. He took some powerlifter through a set and stopped him. He was at least 8 reps from failure. Now, you can do that shit when you're on enough gear, and you will grow. And that's, to your point, RP is like, here's our methods and volume and this and that. And it's like, and all your guys are, but I put this up and I was like, look, I like reps in reserve. I like but most people are shit at it. I go, because you don't know what 0 is. And I said that, I said, look, you think you're at 0. This is what it looks like. If it's not grinding like this, it is not 0. And I put out a challenge. I said, next time you do a set, get on a machine, something safe. When you think you're done, try another rep. When you get that, try another rep. Right. Get it until it will not move. Now how, and all people did was came in and personally attacked me. Nobody ever sent me a video to prove me wrong because they knew I was fucking right. But to your point, they had allied themselves. They had put Mike on a pedestal, and they couldn't say that they backed the wrong horse. I put up my videos, and people are like, "Wow, I thought I was at failure." And I went in the next day and I put 20 pounds and did 7 more reps. I'm like, and that's the problem. The average person, if you tell them to go to 0, they might get to 3. And if you tell them to go to 3, they'll be at 6, and they'll wonder why they're getting nowhere. Right? I go into my commercial gym. 95% of people, if it's half maximal reps, 6, 7, 8. All right, cool. That was a good warm-up set. Right. When are you going to do the actual, if I see a single rep slow, that's the exception to the rule. And all this bullshit online, all that stuff, it's like, oh, and there's technical failure and this and that. Then, of course, years later, Mike comes out on a podcast and is like, yeah, if the weight's not slowing, it's not a training set. It's like, you mean what I was saying you were wrong about 3 years ago that you lied to people about because you couldn't admit you were wrong? Like, but yeah, I've been online since it started. Everybody says they train harder than any 10 people put together. I've watched too many people in commercial gyms. I know that's bullshit. And you do too, because you have them send you a video and you're like, yeah, I got bad news.
I tell my, I just told a client of mine last week, I'm like, you're taking every lateral raises. And this is something even last year before that, I was watching, I'm like, listen, you're taking every first set to failure, to failure. So you understand if you are going to, because I do believe in not training to failure all the time.
Sure.
But if I don't have a gauge of what that actually is, then so I need you to understand what failure feels like. I need you to psychologically know what it feels like and physically know what it feels like. Because psychological failure is what that's actual failure to people. And psychological failure is way less reps. It is way less reps. It's like oh my, because that internal dialogue you have when things are getting hard is what determines whether or not you're going to go to failure. The willingness to, this is uncomfortable. Your body is starting to do what it naturally does. It's painful. Stop, right? Go further. So then this year, he's made great results this year. I'm seeing him do his lateral raises. I'm like, why your lateral raises is not slowing down a bit, right?
Right.
I'm like, you're taking all of your accessory sets. I don't care, to failure, and we're doing 20 reps. I don't care what it is. you have to rest, pause until you get there. And I'm like, do not pick a weight so you can do 20 reps. You're gonna use the same weight you were using already,
and you're gonna get 20.
You're gonna get there, right? And how do you feel? Oh my god, this is I didn't know I can. Of course,
I had no idea. Yeah. Well, that's like, even when I did my videos, there was like, oh, Lyle advocates failure. No. I said, this is what it looks like. I said, that's all I'm saying is you cannot do 2 reps in reserve till you know what a true 0 is. Right. And failure, training to that level. I mean, you made a really good point. Most people stop when it gets hard. I love it in the research. They're like, volitional muscular failure, when they think the next rep will be failure. What a bunch of bullshit. Does that mean that if I hit 2 reps out of 10, when I could have and I decide the next one's failure, like I'm get a magical training stimulus? Physiological failure is when you cannot do a rep despite providing maximal effort, but it is a skill. And what I do with people I work with, the first few months, break in, easy, technique, breathing. I know you do the same thing. And then I'm like, okay, at this workout, pick one safe exercise, a curl, a push down, I don't care, something easy. I want you to go till it won't move. And then when you think it won't move, do another one. And you will, over time, they realized, holy shit, what I thought was my limits. And then gradually you do it on, like, I would not start on like leg press or hack squats because they'll die. But just to start learning, this is what this feels like. This is mentally and physically what people's perceived limits, again, the exact point you made, they're nowhere close. And they have to learn how. And it's harder to do online. If I'm coaching someone in person, I'll just go, all right, do another one. And they do, and do another one, and do another one, and keep going and keep going. They're like, wow, I would have stopped 5 reps ago. I'm like, what did we learn? It's like, okay. Yeah. And even in the next week, you bring them in and they get 2 more than that. The current evidence-based fitness industry, every day has to be a new study to keep up with they have to make content. Every day it changes. Today it's 52 sets. Next day it's 8. Today it's you only need to go to 6 reps in reserve. That was a recent Menno thing. Like, no, you people are just keeping folks confused and misled, and it's pissed me off for 30 fucking years. And it's like, the basics work. The basics always work. And I've had a number of people that came to me for consults, and they're like, yeah, I did RP and all I got was tendonitis from high volume, high frequency. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you can do that when you piss about. If you do piss ass intensity, you can absolutely train the same muscle group 6 days a week, and then you still end up with tendonitis. And I'm like, nope, doesn't work. We're going to do it my way. So I think we're all on exactly the same page. So I have one more, because I think you probably will need to wrap up. Have you ever had to fire a client? And if so, why? Or are you so selective in who you take on that it's not an issue?
Honestly, it's so at the beginning of my career, it was, you're grateful to get clients,
sure,
right? And then it wasn't until I would say more so like during the pandemic when then I started to get a lot more people in. Yeah, there are people I have actually I've had to get rid of.
Right,
and like this isn't a fit, and it was either like they want to do too much. They're hiring me because like they're making excuses of like, hey, I had one client who wanted to do steroids.
Okay.
And I wasn't gonna let him do steroids at all because he was too young. Number one, he was probably like 22, but he was always talking about he had issues with steroids before, and then he would make an excuse that SARMs were okay, and then he would it was like, I tried SARMs and it gave me a headache. Do you think I should do tests instead? And I'm like, no. Going with this, like, no, it's like no, like this isn't working. I've had who recently actually, I had a client who wanted to compete in an actual show and do gear, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, and not like I'm not like a ridicule, like, what are you doing? It's like, this is going to affect your reputation and my reputation. Right. So this is something that you need to think about. I will still coach you, but you need to do a show that's not natural.
Yeah.
Period. And not to say that the guy will do good. And I told you, firstly, you'll do good in a tested show regardless. So like, what's the problem? So, and then I've had people just kind of quit themselves, You know, like I'm not a guy who's gonna like like I said with those two examples, very obvious, but like I'm a no bullshit type guy. So it's like I'm gonna be encouraging, I'm gonna be motivational, I'm gonna be educational, but I'm not gonna take your bullshit either. So it's like you have things to do on your end that help. Like I cannot coach if you do not do these things.
Right.
And eventually you just get exhausted of just being lazy, and eventually like, hey, I don't want to do it. And then but I make sure I do on my end of the bargain. So when they do try the whole like, well, you know, you didn't say no, I was like, here's me reaching out and coaching and doing things I need to do. Here's weeks of evidence of you not doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So there's yeah.
All right.
Guys, I liked our earlier discussion about how many people aren't training nearly as close to failure as they think. And it brings us to a moment that I view as one that really highlights the gap between perception and reality. Jonni, in front of you, in one of your collaborations, Mike said, in a factual sense, and I don't want to come off like a dick, but I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Mentzer. That's it.
God.
So all of a sudden that changes the game. I'm more educated than Mike Mentzer. I know more things than Mike Mentzer.
I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Mentzer. So all of a sudden that changes the game. I'm more educated than Mike Mentzer. I know more things than Mike Mentzer.
Yeah.
And in Greg's reaction to that, he speculated that you must have found that hilarious at the time because you have a smile on your face. I mean, you were the guy in the moment.
And so when Jonni listens to him say, I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Mentzer, you can see the smirk, the laugh. I mean, he's on his podcast. He's not going to insult him. And so what do you expect him to say? Do you really think Johnny's going to say, and so you're telling me, Mike, that you think you're bigger and stronger than Mike Mentzer? A Mr. Olympia professional bodybuilder. You're bigger and better than him. Really? You're delusional, Mike. Johnny's not going to say that. He's a guest on his podcast. I would say it, but Johnny's not going to be that nice.
I'm more educated than Mike Mentzer. I know more things than Mike Mentzer.
Yeah.
I mean, could you walk us through your reaction? Like,
so
both then and now?
I think I said, so this is, he invited, like, so this is, again, like, this relationship started off so well. Like, it was like, you know.
Between you and Mike.
Yeah, I was like, I swear to fuck, I'm like, this is, I got a cool friend of Mike who's educated, who's, you know, doing this, you know, it started off as like one of those things was like awesome. So he invited me over to his spot. He's like, yeah, come stay at my place. We'll do a collab together. I'm like, yeah, cool, so cool. So I'm in his studio.
Yeah.
I'm in his studio, and he says it. I'm just like, all right,
yeah, okay.
He's got to be joking, you know. Like I know because he's, you know, he's sarcastic a lot. He jokes a lot. Well, we did about we sat and did about 8 different topics and back to back. We spent about like 3 hours in doing a you know, back and forth. I think this might have been like a third or fourth one. And I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, he's making some black jokes, he's making some, you know, whatever jokes, Jewish jokes and stuff. Okay.
The blacks, or I'm gonna get canceled for that one.
We're good.
Also good. It's also true. So
this is not serious. And then it wasn't until like after I watched it, I'm like, and then funny thing is like, it wasn't until all these comments down the road, I'm like, this guy actually thought he was smarter than Mike Mentzer. I'm like, there's no way, because he never gave off that with me so I was like, he's definitely joking, because he's not, you know. He's like,
but he was
right.
So
sorry, you're not.
Your reaction
like,
at the time was,
sure. Then it's
he
like,
must be joking.
Like, fast forward down the road, I'm smarter than every coach. I'm like, oh my god, he meant that.
I'm both on a raw IQ scale smarter than almost every coach, maybe every coach.
Yeah,
There's
you
no
meant
way.
that.
Yeah,
So,
he wasn't,
and I wasn't
joking.
gonna call him out in his house either. Like I was like, yeah,
Sure.
you sure, Mike? You sure you're better than
Yeah, I mean, he displayed some
Mentzer?
hospitality, whatever, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was. I remember that conversation.
Yeah. I am
Amazing.
both on a raw IQ scale smarter than almost every coach, maybe every coach, and I know more about physiology and body responses than they do. Remember that?
Yeah. It's.
Yeah, you highlighted his obsession with raw. What's this raw thing about? Raw
With what?
IQ scale.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Raw.
I had to. It's
smagging.
nothing. It's actually nothing. There's no measurement for raw the thing is like what fun. I know I gotta give Greg props. This one. It's one of my favorite quotes. All someone has to do is know 5% more than you, and you think they know everything. And that's like Mike in a nutshell to a lot of people. Like he has a great like look,
Sure.
he like don't take away from what it takes to get an education. He does know his field of things. And I say that in terms of what he's studied in his field of things. I'm saying that very
Let it go, Solomon. Just let it go.
I'm just you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not like
yeah.
Look, you picked
Sure.
I'm not trying to
Okay.
I gotta, but to the person who's going online that's trying to find out how to do a push-up or how to do how to program or whatever. It's the same as me when I'm trying to figure out how to fix my Ducati. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go on. And some guys, I'm like, I don't know what the heck this. I just need to learn how to change my fairings in the oil. Like, I don't. But this guy's definitely know. So it's like for everyone else is watching, they're like, yeah, man, this guy knows for sure. Raw IQ must mean something because I don't know what it means. And he's a professor, so that must mean a lot. And I'm like, raw IQ means fucking nothing. What are you talking about?
Right.
It's actually not a thing. Like, it's not a thing. But
yeah,
again, I'm not going to take away from his education. Again, I said this, and you weren't here when I said it, but like people don't understand. Like, if you're an exercise scientist, you go to school for that. Your goal is to be a physiotherapist, not a. I mean,
it can. I mean, that's okay. So not like that is what I got my. That's what I got my degree in. And a lot of people did go to physical therapy. A lot of people went to med school out of that. I wanted to be in sports and performance, but my degree actually joked. They're like, okay, one of my professors was like, okay, don't tell anybody. I'm going to teach you something practical now. Like it was almost a joke because it was like, now it gave me the physiological background. It gave me the science to be able to read the research, but I still had to learn by actually coaching people, by working with people, and by looking at what worked, right? Like, okay, we can argue, we can quibble, for hours, we can debate about contest prep and flexible dieting and refeeds and all that other crapola, like, and I mean, I've been writing about for years and that's fine. But at the end of the day, and, and the whole bro science thing, which when I was younger, I was that guy. And now it's like, look, bodybuilders did figure stuff out. They had to. When you have 100,000 dudes trying everything underneath the sun for a century, they're going to get some stuff right. Now, the drugs do color it. And I know Solomon pointed this out to me, like you work with both. And I have no doubt that you do different things with, it changes the game, right? And I'm not saying that it's like, oh, anabolics, I don't care that it's cheat. I'm not saying it's cheating. I don't care. Whatever. I'm a big believer. They choose to do that, do untested shows, but I'm sure that the way you train them is different. Naturals need more intensity.
Easier.
Too much intensity with drugs, you can get injured if you go too heavy, too quick. Like all that, there are differences. But I still had to learn it. But we know what contest prep demands. We know what bodybuilders have done to get into shape. And as much as success leaves clues can be kind of trite and misleading, it does. We know what successful guys are doing consistently, but Mike thinks that he is a unique snowflake that is different than every other. My physiology is different.
I also have quite unique physiology.
You know who says that? People who are overweight and say, I can't lose weight. And you go, well, have you tried cutting calories? No, I can't do that. Well, have you tried exercise? No, I can't do that. Well, no, you haven't tried shit. You are not a unique snowflake. You are unwilling to do the. And Mike, he has that same mentality. My body holds water. That just means you your diuretics. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been in this too long. That means you up your diuretic profile. You are not.
Or you're too fat.
And I know physiques are different. I know that there is individual variance. That's what you do as a coach. You learn peak week, especially. It's part science and it's part guess and it's part luck and it's part artwork to figure out what. Yes, there at that level. There's no schedule you can follow for everyone. You have to figure out for that individual, and you usually learn the hard way because they come in and they look like shit on stage, and you fix the problem. But he's decided, nope, what everybody else does, no, I don't. I know my physiology better than anyone, and when I hear that one too, people in the gym are like, I know what works for me, which is just an excuse to do whatever goofy bullshit they've decided, and you go, but it's not. Right? If you're going to say that, if you're going to go, I know it works for me and you're winning, I'm not going to, but if you're like, I know it works for me, but it's not working, then no, you don't. You are not a unique But Mike truly thinks that he is above what everybody successful has ever done in the history of the damn sport. Who's actually gotten to where they need to be. And I'm sorry, I've known lots of people with degrees and lots of people with education that are factually dumb as shit. There are a number of them. The fitness industry does not have a high bar to get into, and there's a lot of shitty PhD programs. But to your point, there's an old joke or an old sentence. An expert is someone who knows one more thing than you. You said 5%, but it's the same thing. To people that don't know any better, to the 14-year-olds that Mike panders to with his macho prattling and constant gay jokes, they just go, well, he's big. He must know what he's talking about. Oh, yeah, sleep's better than anabolic steroids. Sure, Mike. Sure it is. You know, whatever bullshit he says on any given day, but they don't know any better. And this industry thrives on those, because how many years did he special sports supplements where he didn't admit that he was using? And he's like, come train with me with the RP. Well, why? Why are you? You're not an example of what. Show me what your training has done for someone without grams of drugs a week, and maybe then we can talk. But this whole industry has always been like that, unfortunately. And it just, I don't know why I was babbling about this, but yeah. So it's, to your point. I mean, nobody can know until they know, and that was what infuriated me about the failure thing. I'm like, Mike was more intent on lying to people and continuing to mislead them for years. He's wasting 4 years of their short training career to avoid saying, hey, I'm wrong. And I'm sorry, that's sociopathic and it's evil. Because you are basically like, protecting my ego is more important than admitting to these people that I'm wrong about something. But hey, I'm just a rounding error. So what the
and not to downplay your expertise. Like I coach a lot. I've coached a bunch. Like I have clients who are either with exercise physiology, and they're either physiotherapists, they're strength conditioning coaches at Arizona University. They're these are in their career and they hire me because they know that I have experience in terms of anecdotal, I'd put people through this process, and there's a lot of that, and you've done this yourself a lot. You've been through that, you have that part that you have to, that's extra, that it's not, it's not just going to school. I have a degree. I learned, I did studies.
Absolutely.
It's not, you have to go both the best of both worlds.
Agreed.
That's when you're
absolutely,
that's the best in there.
Absolutely.
But not the one that's just like, and I know Mike's a guy who's not coached somebody in person. Like, so for me, I always look at guys who make these comments like, he's he's a holy grail of training because he's been on X, and all the power to him, man. I know this YouTube game more than anyone else. I know it analytically. Mike knows nothing about his channel at all. He'll admit it. When I used to talk to anyone, I was talking to Scott, his video guy, about it. I know this. I know everything analytically about this freaking platform. So getting to where he's at, all the power to you. That takes work, great collaboration, great camaraderie, whatever it is.
Well, but he had RP push, driving the.
Oh yes,
RP had the business and marketing.
You got the money to push it.
Mike was the face. Mike was just the face of Renaissance periodization, but it was the business guy that was doing the rest of it.
Well,
to get him to where they needed to be.
Yeah, and I took some stuff from them, and like in terms of they used to they batch videos, so we'll sit there and he'll put out like 10 different videos in one day, maybe 20 in 2 days, and then go travel and do his stuff. So I knew the business part of the back because I talk a lot of that with this guy. So that to me is like very admirable, but it comes with a responsibility that I've stuck with since I've been on this platform. I will not stray from what I believe in. It's like, I am not going to give you bullshit. I'm not going to give you, I don't care how long I'm not, like I said to a lot of people, my goal isn't to become a famous YouTuber. I want to be a great coach, period. If I end up getting a lot of views, great, awesome. Do I want to get 1 million subscribers? I would love to, because I know what 1 million subscribers does to my business. But I'm not going to get to the point where I'm telling somebody that lying on my back horizontal doing bicep curls.
Oh,
it's like one of my clients did it. I'm like, don't you do that again? Like, stop it. Like, stop it. We know why I've debunked why, bicep curl standing up is still good, but here's why incline will be a little bit better. But lying like this and doing this, it's like, what do you? So I'm not going to stray from that. So for me as a fitness influencer, I hate that.
Yeah,
it's
right.
like I'm not gonna. I've been coaching the basics forever. It's the basics. Whatever, like I always ask to guys like yourself, Lyle, and yourself, Solomon, all the things that you know, all the information that you've learned,
right?
all you've accumulated in your life. When you're trying to pass the information off to a client, how much of what you've learned do they really need to know?
Oh, no, absolutely. I talked to some people the other day and they asked me, like, what's the biggest mistake you can make as a coach? And I said, forgetting that you're not your clients. I go, look, I'm a big nerd about this. I'm going to learn everything. You want to learn everything, but your clients don't know, they don't know, they don't need to know, and they don't fucking care, right? Like, I don't need to sit there and explain the in-depth physiology of muscle growth when I can just go, I need you to do this to within this intensity and do this. Like, now, if they ask me, I will explain it to them.
Right.
But yeah, and to your point, like, I've been saying basically the same stuff since about 2002. Do I read all the science? Yeah. Do I think it has fundamentally changed what we know about muscle growth, about how to get where you need to be? As like, yeah, maybe people are a little more efficient with dieting and we know, like, whatever. But in the big picture, and this is the point I make when people are looking at all these new innovations and this, that, and the other, I go, look, natural physiques have not improved in 20 years. There are more people, I think, getting to stage, but in the natural shows, 165s are still the biggest class, right? Nobody's any bigger, nobody's any, it's for most sports, right? No, yeah. Usain Bolt ran a 959, what's that, 14 years ago? Right. It's been, nobody has even come close with all this technology, with all these new things, because none of it makes a fucking bit of difference. Right. The last innovation I think I saw in the training world, that was Louis Simmons with chains and bands. And that was 20 years ago. Like, most athletes have plateaued. Naturals are not any bigger than they were. Pros are. The pros are now, you've got these guys 320 shredded, which is like, I mean, Ronnie was 280. Arnold competed at 220 to 240, depending on you. These guys are 80 pounds bigger than Arnold.
Right.
And that, I think, is innovations. It's not innovations in training, and I think you would agree with that. It's simply more gear. And there's more people entering the sport. There's better genetics entering the sport. There are probably more people getting to stay, but none of this has changed fundamentally. What we need to do to get big, what we need to do to get lean, those same rule. And that's why I've changed very, very, very little about, but the other problem is the basics don't sell. When you got people looking for the new and the secret and the top, this industry, and again, I've watched it. The magazines, it was every month, right? Every month you could see, I go to the gym, like, okay, this month Men's Health had their power clean article because everyone's doing shitty power cleans today, and they will till next month. And then the internet started, and it was, T-Nation had 3 articles a week, and then 5, and then 7, and then 2 a day, and then 7 a day. And then we've got Instagram and TikTok, and you can get a new thing you must do, should never do, have to do, can't do every 30 seconds. And people are so utterly fucking confused. And then you're using the basics and figuring it out for the person. But the basics aren't sexy. Right. But that's what works. And eventually, I'm sure you get a lot of people that are like, and I do too, who are like, you know what? I tried all this and none of it worked. And like, yes, and it led you to me. And my way is no fun. My way is hard. Your way is hard. But somebody asked me once, and I'd be curious what you say. They go, what differentiates what are the best athletes doing that, and ignoring genetics, ignoring that. And I said, they're doing the basics well consistently.
Yes. 100%.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at real athletes, I go look at powerlifters that I knew in this sport. They're not doing juggernaut. They're not doing RP. They're not fucking around with any of that. They are doing the basics consistently. Yeah. The best athletes are, if you're a basketball player, fundamentals consistently, sprinter. And then this sport, everybody's changing what they're doing. Today it's length and partials, and tomorrow it's this bizarre cable movement, and now it's this with science. It's
Did you see the latest of Mike's? It's a curl-press-flye.
The press, I have my client send me that. She's like, can you please debunk that? I'm like,
it is the fly curl press.
I'm like, what? But it's if it's a low hanging fruit, man, I gotta get some views. You know what I mean? So
there was this.
If I have to make a point that, hey,
I don't
Mike
even know what
3 years ago would have said would have debunked this. You know, like now you live long enough to become a hero, live long enough to become a villain.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Sean Malawani did a great demonstration of why it's a bad exercise, because the biceps fail long before the chest and triceps do. So you're basically accruing all this junk volume for your so it's a curl. Yeah. So you're like on a cable machine, right? You do a curl, then a press, and then a fly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you curl it in.
Curl, press.
So you can go from the
your biceps fail before your chest.
You go from the back and you get this nice stretch.
Right.
And when you get this really good stretch, you bring it in and then you press.
Okay.
And then you bring it out.
So I've been wanting to. This is again. I've been in this field for 40, like reading the magazines for 40 years, or professionally for 30. I've watched all. Now we're back to eccentric emphasis training. That's all this is. You're like, all right, press up, fly down. That's been around for a million years. If you want to feel, don't do this. I did it once. If you want to feel like your hamstrings are tearing, set up a deadlift bar, like 30% below your normal deadlift. Deadlift it to the top, and then RDL it to the bottom, and you will feel your hamstrings tearing. Right? We would do abs over a curl thing. We would curl up with a plate, put it overhead, and do this slow in, like you could feel like that's all he's doing is like press up, fly down. But I mean, but again, it's just
no, it's worse. He starts with a curl. I don't know if you missed that part. It's curl, press, fly.
Well, you have to. All right. So look, let's imagine I'm on a flat bench. I'm on an incline bench. I'm going to go press, fly. I'm going to have to bring him in. That's all he's doing. No, and it's just eccentric overload. It's dumb.
It's a cable too, right? It's a cable exercise, and it's if you don't have enough time, do this.
Okay.
And I'm like, if you don't have enough time, just kill that one exercise.
Yeah. Again, the people that are actually out there, this is content for content's sake, because you have to put up a video every day to stay relevant in the algorithm and get that sweet YouTube money and Athlete Act. Like all these guys do it. They're like, and every video contradicts every other video. No wonder.
I've made the same deadlift video for like, I don't know how many years.
Yeah, because nothing's changed. Right? Nothing has fundamentally changed in what you're doing. But
but you don't have to change anything, because the funny thing is, like, because every time I get a client that asks me something that I've done a billion videos on, I'm like, if you're asking me this, there's probably 1,000 people that are asking the same question. I'm going to do a video again.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we're all definitely, but that's like in your experience, like that's what the best guys are doing, right? They're doing the fundamentals well, and consistently.
Right. Yeah. It's same when I was playing football, angle pedaling, back pulling, same cross steps when you're doing a lead or an off tackle or it's all the same. A kick step's a kick step. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And it's just
and the basic stuff. You practice that a lot.
You practice so you can do it in your sleep.
Yeah.
You wake up and you're like, you have nightmares of doing the same thing over and over again. I did a photo shoot with my sponsor, and they wanted, since I lost so much weight, like we want to go back and do some functional stuff. Can we do a they bought some nice, vapor gloves and stuff. I was like, oh, sweet, cool, for sure. And just throwing me the ball, and I'm just like, one hand, it's like natural. Like I remember doing this because I used to coach receivers, hours and hours coaching people on proper catching fundamentals. I won't lose. I play piano. It's like, I always make that's my biggest thing. I make an analogy always when it comes to basics. The scale is never how to do a scale has never changed.
Right.
Fingering on a scale has never changed. Has never changed. Since Beethoven, the first person to play piano has never changed. If you want to be able to play something beautiful, you have to learn the basic scale. And if you can't do a basic scale and care, you're not going to be able to play. You won't be able to move your fingers over the keys properly, proper skills, arpeggios, anything. And it's the same with training. It's the exact same. Learn the basic shit, do it over and over and over again, and you get results. It's just kind of like...
Excuse me, Jonni, you're forgetting that I can get liposuction, take retatrutide, and simply do the curl-press-flye.
I mean, if you got the money, go ahead.
Yeah, but that is the thing. Like, we are in, like...
I want it now.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a very quick fix thing, and we are at the point, like, they're working on drugs that will build muscle. I mean, we've got anabolics, but yes, that will work. And if that's fine, like if you just want to be buff and look good, that's fine. But if you're going to have the goal of being a top tier athlete, you can't use that instead of. You
Yeah.
can. I knew there's a guy. This goes to when I asked you about, if you what you look for, and this is a speed skater I knew, and he's like, I want to make the Olympics, and he never showed up. He never warmed up. He never cooled down. He hated drills. He skipped 75% of workouts, but he wanted to spend $1,500 on custom skates. And I'm like, that's you're missing the point. Like, yeah, maybe custom skates matter when you're at the top 1%.
Right.
I actually have one more question for you from a bodybuilding perspective, because I know it's true in other sports. Do you find that people who are going to be successful tend to see early success? By which I mean, like, let's say you get someone day one, they've never been in the gym. You train them for 3 good years, like with what works. Do you have a pretty good idea of how far they're going to get at that point?
Yes. Bodybuilding is so easy. It's very easy. If they come in with the proper, now again, like, you can predict, and you can also, like, I have guys who, I have one athlete who I'll say his name, Danique, has the look for men's physique. It's just, unfortunately, he's going in Canada. It's hard to, you get one pro card, etc. Then you go to the Olympia. He's went to the Olympia amateur. Arnold. He's been everywhere, placed top 5. So, like, yes, he'll be an unbelievable amateur and can possibly become a pro. Unfortunately, when it comes to that, it's like, I can't predict I never tell a guy you can become a pro.
Oh, sure. No, that's not what I'm saying.
But
like,
yes, what I'm saying is, yeah, like, when it comes to, I knew when I got him, the first day when I got him, like, if this guy can work, he's going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah, but even then, like, you look at Dorian, and after like 2 or 3 years of training, you could already see, like, this guy is he had the shape, he had the full muscle bellies, like, because in most sports, like, by year 3, you've made a large amount of the gains you're going to make. And it's kind of like, if you're not there, like, yeah, everyone's like, well, Michael Jordan, but this exception. I'm like, yeah, now look at the 99% of guys that fucking chase the dream their entire life and never got out of last place, right? Yeah. That like, let's not focus on the exceptions. They make the rule. But, like, if you're a cyclist, like, if you haven't gotten pretty far, like, yeah, there's in bodybuilding also, there's going to be, learning to diet and bringing in the details. You may continue, but if after 3 years, you're here and here's where you need to be, I'm sorry, you're never getting there. Never. Yeah. Like, if you're a power lifter and you've been, and you started training and 3 years later, you're squatting 315, I'm sorry, you're not going to squat 900 ever. There's just no, if you came in the gym like Ed Cohn and pulled 405 your first day, you might. But yeah, like, you can tell response fairly early on.
Yeah, and that's not natural and enhanced. Like, and they're winning early.
Right.
Like very early. They're not like, you're not getting last place, then I'll last call of them, like, yeah, man, I'm gonna make it. All of a sudden, there's no stories like that in bodybuilders. Like, yeah, man, he placed, dead last, and all of a sudden 1 year,
he was at the top.
Like, it's like, it doesn't happen, right?
Well, like, going to Mentzer, like, even like, he won, wasn't it a teen bodybuilding show? Like, he, like, early in his career,
Teen Mr. USA, was
he was like already not a world beater, but you could see, like,
well, pick any of the Olympia guys right now, every one of them.
Yeah, they were top.
What was their first? I've got competed against a few of them. What was their first show? How they do? They were winning. Right. They were winning or placing top. When my first show was against Greg, and I placed third. Right, my first show was Greg. I placed third in my class. And
what did Greg place?
First. First. This greasy son of a bitch. He was literally this guy. I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. Right, I even tanned myself. I was the lightest guy in Stage on Black. It was hilarious. He was sitting.
That's too funny.
I remember him sitting there at weigh-ins, before weigh-ins, stuffing himself with potatoes.
Right.
Like, just gunning him down because he's won. My first show, I was like, you got to beat Greg Doucette, man. The rumor was, this football player that's coming, he's going to beat Greg Doucette.
Oh, shit.
And it was me. So I'm like, it was me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Who's this Greg guy? He's like, yeah, man, he wins all the time. And me from football, again, this is the mentality of bodybuilding. When I knew what I was getting into, I was like, you guys don't like him because he wins all the time? I'm coming off of a team who just lost for the first time in 20 years. So it's like, we're always like, I'm like, okay, that's how it should be. Like, what do you guys are mad because he's winning? Anyway, so he's won every class. He's won every single class. and he's a cocky son of a bitch. He's telling everybody, you want to, if you, whatever. So he's stuffing himself with potatoes to make it to the heavyweight.
Oh,
to weigh in heavy. And
wow.
then the next day he's like 193. He's not heavyweight, but he wins. He looked phenomenal. Like you could see the difference. You could see why. Like I was nowhere near as lean as he was. My second show nationals, I came 8th. 7 before me all of their pro cards the year after.
Right.
My third show, I won my first overall. My fourth Canadian, I came 3rd. My second one that I didn't do any local shows after that, provincial, or we call it state, whatever. I placed 1st or 2nd until I won my pro card.
Right.
So it's like I never. So like guys who are good, they're going to be good.
They start good.
They start good
and they get better. But I think the other thing, in terms of your competition results, I think it's the other thing. Like, all right, some guy does their first show and they get 16th. All right, yeah, but the next show they come in. You should see progress, right?
Yeah.
If you're coming in dead last for 3-4, like just go pick a better hobby. I'm sorry, this isn't. You're never gonna get there. But at least if you're showing, because you learn to diet. You learn. You said you weren't lean enough your first show. Well, you learned. All right, I better actually get in shape. And okay, I've got this weak point. And as long as you're making constant improvements, but Mike hasn't. So far as I can tell, he's just been kind of in the middle. Also ran his physique, like he's in better shape than when he started, when he didn't have AB1. But when he's being on, he'll go, yeah, that's the growth hormone protocols. That's just more drugs. But at the higher level, it's still not enough.
Right.
You should be at least improve, like, because you look at those guys in the Olympia who are like chasing Dorian, and he was unbeatable till he got injured. But like every year they were trying to, but they were closing. They maybe never made it. But if you've been here for 4 or 5 years in a sport, it's like every guy who's like, you know what? I've been in this band for 20 years, but I think next year, like that's the one. I'm ready to break through. Like, no, sorry, it's time to go. And anyone who's enabling you and telling you to keep doing this shit, when you are throwing your life, there's that thing online where people are like, anyone who tells you to stop chasing your dreams needs to be cut out of your life. Bullshit. If you've been doing this for 10 years and your health is at risk and you're having all these problems and you're not making any progress towards your goal, anybody who tells you not, they are part of the problem.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Do not listen. I make it a point, everybody here, do not listen to any of your family or friends. I made a point. That was my rule. Like, I'm not listening. My mom's opinion, my friends, I don't.
Sure. I guess, Jonni, if you had to sum it up, what do you think is the biggest lesson Mike Israetel needs to learn?
Just be like humility. Like, just like you have to, I'm never going to stop wanting to learn. Yeah. And I don't think I know everything. And it's like the one that thinks he knows knows everything, knows nothing at all. Like he's that guy. Like he needs to just know that he's not the best, and just listen to people. Like, it's a very easy in business. Like, if this person doing something and they're successful at doing it and you're doing in the same field, copy them. Like, copy them.
Absolutely.
Don't reinvent the wheel. Copy them. That's literally what I put that's what my first, when it looks into motivational speakers, and I remember Tony Robbins saying it, copy the people who are already successful. So like, don't try and reinvent the wheel, because the wheel you're inventing isn't even a wheel. It's a fucking square. Right. It's not going anywhere. So it's like, just, look, do a 360, see the people around you that are pros, and be like, hey man, I need some help. Yeah. Just be willing to ask for help and accept help. And then his life changes immensely. Because I know he listened to me when I gave him information, when I gave him tips about his channel. I know 100% they did. Right. 100%.
But I don't think he had the ego, and also that was going to make him money. Right. And he's even said, he's just like, yes, getting rich, getting rich is, which is fine. If that's your goal to make, he listened to you because he wanted to make money, but he doesn't have his ego tied up in that like he does in his physique, because there is that gross, deep down insecurity that is never going to go away. See, not at age 40.
That train of thought is so stupid, because the same thing that's going to give him, obviously, but the reason why he wants a pro card is because he knows the weight of a pro card, And we say
Sure.
we always say it, like, getting your pro card is like getting your PhD in fitness.
Yeah.
Like, people just blindly listen to you because you got a pro card, right? I fortunately have knowledge behind my pro card, but I know a lot of guys who have a pro card that know absolutely nothing.
Oh, yeah.
They're absolute idiots when it comes to fitness. That's why he wants his pro card. I have to show that I'm good at this, and that's how I can show that my methods work. Because if I have this pro card, it shows just that. Okay, cool.
Sure.
Yeah,
Because
by
I know
his own
that-
admission, his reason for competing to illustrate
because in
that
that
his
it's going to
methods
make
work.
you have more business. So like, if you think of listening to me when it comes to YouTube and taking some advice from that, you should probably take the same thing, because that's going to make you more money. Because I know that having a pro card helps me when it comes to getting hired, or etc. So this the backwards train of thinking. It just
this will be my last thought tonight. I promise I'll shut up, and I'll be curious what y'all think. I had an epiphany is not the right. I've been wondering about this for so long, like how someone can just be that adamant about not listening. And here's the best answer I can come up with, other than what we've talked about. Let's say that Mike hired you, and listen, and this is the guy. Mike said, you know what? It's really important to me to pick holes in coach's advice.
And so it becomes very, how do I say this best? Maniacally fun for me to resist the coach's demands and be very cynical and skeptical when they ask me to do things.
Are you just determined to fail? Like, why? How self-destructive can you be? Right? When I heard my speed skating coach, I knew a lot about physiology. I coached bodybuilders and powerlifters. He was the expert on that sport, and I shut the hell up and listened to every word he said. Right? But Mike's like, well, I'm this, and I'm smarter than every other coach, and I would rather just poke holes in other coaches. Why? But here's what I think. Here's my theory.
I know where you're going.
If Mike were to actually hire someone and listen to every piece of advice that they gave him and still lost, he would have to acknowledge that he's a shitty bodybuilder. By ignoring them, he can make excuses for every other thing. But if he were to hire you and you got him into the best shape of his life, which you would if he listened, and he still did terribly, he would have to come to terms with the fact that he sucks at this sport. That's my theory.
I got another
very interesting theory.
I thought a different theory. I thought you were going where I was going, but I'm going to add to it. And you might be like, oh my God, it makes sense.
Please.
I asked a few people around here, like, hey, you want to come on the channel? It'd be cool to come on the channel. And a couple girls here that are like unbelievable, wellness competitors who will do really good. Right? They are worried that they will lose clients. So if I coach Mike and he wins and he gets his pro card or whatever, it's not my method that is what helped me win. It's Jonni that and then there's the So it could be those two together. I think it's probably both.
No, that's an absolutely. That one hadn't occurred to me, but you're right, because it would
that happens a lot in this industry. A lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird. Like, the reality is, even coaches need coaches, right? Because we are terrible at coaching, or everybody is terrible at coaching themselves. Everyone needs to be objective feedback, because especially when you have knowledge about it, right? And maybe you didn't, like, you learned over a bunch of years, but usually what you do, I did this when I was younger all the time. I would be dieting and I'd be like, well, I'm going to try this and this and this and this, like shit that I would never do with a client. And it got me injured once. And it, like, the best results I ever got was one time I told people, just once a week, ask me if I'm sticking with the plan I would give someone else, just so I wouldn't be my own worst enemy. So like, my powerlifting trainee, she's a trainer, but she needed a coach. I needed a coach for my sport. Like, it's very hard to coach yourself, but people don't understand. They're like, well, why would an online fitness coach need a coach? And I'm like, because it's very hard to coach yourself.
Right.
But I think I think you're right. You would have to go, well, Johnny's methods work and mine don't. So I think, yeah. Gentlemen,
you think
that's
fantastic? It was. It was a real pleasure to meet you, Jonni.
Absolutely, Johnny.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed this, man. And yeah, man, if you guys want me back on again, man, let me know.
Dude, I take back half of the bad stuff I said. No, I'm kidding. I didn't. Take back half the bad stuff I said about you. Now,
you're not a piece of shit, Lyle.
Exactly, dude. You're not nearly the piece of shit I thought you would be. So no, absolutely. Like, I'm familiar with your channel. I don't watch a lot of fitness content. But I know everyone that I know who's watched it has said positive things. So
I appreciate
it was definitely. And when he showed me your comment and he was like, we should get Jonni on, I'm like, oh yeah, we should get Jonni on. Because you made the point, you're like, he can delete my comment. Mike can delete your comment, but he can't delete your video. And that's, I have noticed with me especially, like my name triggers Mike like nothing. He'll start shaking, dude. He'll be like, I can't even say his name. I'm like,
If by trouble you mean Lyle McDonald.
I'm not allowed to say that name.
Yeah.
dude, I've lived in his head rent free for years now, which makes me just like, dude, for real, like for real, just whatever.
You did a number.
So,
you did a number to him, man.
yeah, I know, and it's great, and that's why we keep. I'm still convinced because he was like, I'm retiring and I'm done with competitive bodybuilding to focus on my channel, and we ran our video, and a month later he was like, I'm thinking about competing again. I'm convinced that us coming out and tearing him to pieces was what stimulated, because he's like, nope, I got to prove to the haters, and that's great. We're gonna have content for years. Every time
I hope he does. If you ever watch this, Mike, I hope you prove us wrong.
No, I do too.
I hope
I
he
would
does.
love to be proven wrong.
Right, and for all the haters who be like, oh, here's Chelsea. No, I want him to win. I want him to win. My favorite saying is, "You're on thin ice, and I'll be underneath it when it breaks."
No, like absolutely. Like and again, that's the thing he doesn't understand. You and Greg and us, we're being critical, but it's because, like, yes, I would like to see him succeed. I truly would. He won't believe that, but any more than he believes it from you. But I want everybody to succeed. Truly,
before we go, like this is bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
I know from when I started, a few things you do not do. 1, you do not blame it on the tan. 2, you do not blame it on your coach. Right? 3, you don't blame it on holding too much water.
Yeah.
Those are the top 3 bullshit excuses that only losers use, because all 3 of those things are in your complete control.
Sure.
Sorry.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Like
I like that you mentioned you genuinely hope he succeeds at his next show.
Yeah.
Because some people, based on some of the comments I've seen, might be inclined to construe this as simple hating. But I think this sort of criticism can genuinely help Mike. It can warn others, and further, I think it serves to uphold certain standards in bodybuilding.
it's bodybuilding. Like you're don't like this isn't. I tell everybody this when they bodybuild. This isn't pick up basketball on a Thursday night.
Right.
When you're finished. When I finished playing football, I got to take out my cleats and my helmet, and I was done until next practice. Bodybuilding is all day, all night. You breathe, you sleep, eat. It's all, so when it comes down to it, you're getting judged for a reason. Yeah. And I'm gonna be critical as fuck on you. I'm sorry if you don't like it. Do not do the fucking sport. Period. Like it's not.
Or don't put yourself out publicly. Like, and that's the thing. If you're gonna put yourself out publicly with these claims and this and that and the other, you need to be ready. Like you see this all the time, but it's always from the weak-minded. You see this in Hollywood and these actors and actresses, and they like, look, if you're going to be a public figure and call anyone who criticizes you a hater, that's just because you're too weak-minded to accept it.
Right.
And that's what the weak-minded call critics haters, to dismiss them out of hand.
Right.
Like you said, Lyle's arguments aren't well thought out. Fine. Tear holes in them. Explain to me why. Don't just say that. Don't just dismiss me. But that's what the weak-minded do. And I think, in as much as anything else, that you can't fix. If someone is just, especially not at age 40, right? We were all immature little punks. We were like, I look back at Lyle in his 20s and 30s and early 40s, and maybe yesterday, and it's like, yeah, I was like, whatever. We all do dumb shit, but you have to be able to learn from it.
Right.
Like you mentioned your thing, like I'm bipolar too. And I look back at shit that I did 10 years ago. Plus I'm just like, I am perpetually embarrassed by it. And I won't blame it. It was still me driving the bus, and I said shitty stuff, and I made a public apology, and I can only try not to do that again. But you have to be willing to learn and accept it.
Right.
Jonni.
I know that I know the ramifications of me not having mindfulness, self-awareness, emotional intelligence. I know I cannot do what I know. I can't be a father. I can't be a successful business person. I can't have successful relationships. I have all the data that shows me that I cannot stay in the same place. I have to. It's a must. So I treat everything I do in my life like that.
Absolutely.
Right? And if you're not willing to do that, I can't help you in that. It's just, So yeah.
Yep. So yes, Mike, when you watch this, Because people are always like, Mike doesn't even care about your videos. Oh yeah, he does. He lives on every word. I guarantee you he listens to every word and gets furious. And so he can go slander me again on another video and tell a bunch of fucking lies. But it's like, Mike, we want you to succeed. We truly do. Jonni does, I do, Greg Doucette does. I would love to be proven wrong. I truly would. But if I were a betting man, we're not going to be.
I mean, but beyond hoping that Mike proves us wrong, if he listens to this, are there any other takeaways you hope he gets out of this?
You're gonna keep bodybuilding, learn how to pose.
Learn how to pose.
For God's sake, seriously.
Learn how to pose.
Like, if you want to
coach
be if you want to be a jack dude on the beach, don't. But if you're going to go to competition, it is your responsibility to get every % you can, and to go, I don't care about posing. Well, don't even bother.
Right. And honestly, when it comes to, and I could go on level with this, but
yeah,
people understand that when you are a really good poser, when you have that actual muscle mind connection that you can contract muscles and do every pose, and you transfer that into, or you apply that to your actual training, how much more of a stimulus you get when you have complete control over what you're doing. It makes your training better. That's why I know his training's not efficient, because he can't pose. If you can't pose, you probably, when people tell me, I tell them, hey man, I'm training back really good. I'm like, oh, really cool. Can you just do me back relax for me real quick? Just flare relax. I can't flare and relax. How are you training back? You're training traps and biceps. Awesome. Right. So, I can go on that, but learn how to pose, Mike.
Well, I mean, you go back, even Arnold early on, he was a big believer in posing between sets and learning you have to learn what muscles, how they work, and what you're feeling. Otherwise, absolutely. But even if that weren't true, to say I don't care about what my sport is makes no sense to me. It just doesn't.
Don't quote bodybuilders. Don't say this and that if you don't know how to pose. I looked at trophies and old pictures, and I studied. I studied right away. Lee Labrada, Rusty Jeffers. I met him last 2 years at the one of my favorite posers there is. Sean Ray, Rusty Jeffers.
Yeah, I know the name. Who was the guy? I want to say Francois Benoit. There was I don't know. There was a guest poser in the late 80s and early 90s who was just like super artistic. I think he wasn't really competitive.
Francis Benfato, probably.
Yeah, that's who it was. Like, you look at those guys, or even you go back, Vince Garanda actually had some really, what he called S-style posing, or like he analyzed anatomy in the human body to figure out the best way to present a physique. And that's the sport. On stage, that's the sport. So,
that's it in a nutshell. Learn to pose.
So, all right. Well, cool.
I mean, and I'm sorry to sort of prolong this, but just out of personal curiosity, I cannot help but ask, because you mentioned receipts, Jonni, in your comment. I don't suppose you'd be willing to share any specifics of the evidence you hold, like a verbal description would do. But
so I would say, what was one he said to me? When he was breaking it down, he's like, this is how I see it. And he was like, you solicited your coaching to me. And then he was like, you don't call me about friend stuff. And I mentioned to him, Mike, I message you with friend stuff all the time. I send you stupid texts, stupid whatever. I'll send him weird things of little pictures that make him open up and there's that big black guy with his dick hanging out and stuff. Like, oh, you got me again. I'm like, yes, I do. I check in on you. You don't do that, Mike. When he was trying to gaslight me into, me. So at the end of this entire thing, I literally messaged him back and told him exactly what's up. And that's when he was like, I'm actually just having a bad day. I'm sorry. This conversation, I was at a festival, and this conversation went on until 3 a.m.
Oh, Jesus.
Whoa. Mike should have been catching his anabolic Zeds.
Sleep is the best drug, so to speak. An hour of extra sleep that brings you from sleeping 2 hours less than you need to 1 less than you need is unreal powerful and comparable to tons of anabolic drugs.
And then after he sent me a picture, like, check this out, and he sent me a picture of him doing a back double in his glutes. I'm like, and he looked like he was getting dry. I'm like, that's it, Mike. Good shit. And then like a little bit after that, he was like, yeah, I don't know. Actually, I sent him a video. I said, is like, should Mike quit? And I did a video saying he might quit. And in the video, I was like saying reasons why what he was doing was like admirable in terms of like trying to chase his dreams, whatever.
Sure.
And then I didn't think that he was a terrible bodybuilder, but you know, and I'm like, yo, man, check out this video. He's like, I'm not watching that. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, and he lost it on me. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't watch
He
it?
lost it on you?
I'm like, I'm not gonna watch it. I'm like, why not? He's like, I'm not gonna watch. You don't know my life. Like my life is, you know, I'm gonna watch something about my life that I know more about my life than you do. I'm like, I'm saying good stuff about you, Mike. What are you talking about? And he's like, like then I literally took got Otter AI to basically take a piece of what I said in like a paragraph and send it to him. I'm like, dude, like this is what this video is about. He's like, what? And then he just got whatever. So it was, I always keep things in case someone decides to come out and bold-faced lie about me.
Sure.
And then I just have it locked in. I'm just like, here you go.
Yep.
Here's all the evidence. I am not lying. So you want to lie about me? Then I'll send every
The
screenshot.
truth.
Yeah.
Is the truth.
But when you're dealing with narcissists, number one, every accusation is an admission. When he said you don't check in on me, well, that's him talking about himself, right?
Yeah.
Every time, everything he accuses you of is like, because he at one point he was just like, yeah, you know, all those people making video, they're just doing it for money. Like, yes, Mike, because you work for free. Like, it's that. The lack of self-awareness. It's yes, they're just doing it for the views. Well, why the fuck do you make videos? Why do you tell these lies? Why do you say you do it for money? See, when you do it, it's for money. When he does it, it's out of the goodness of his
I honestly think
Go ahead, Jonni.
I honestly, to be honest, with my self-diagnosis for him would be like, I think he has a personality disorder 100%. I tell people, when people like, what happened to you and Mike? I'm like, dude, this is what happened. I was crushed. Not like I was crushed because I was so disappointed that he ended up being mostly every type of YouTuber who is like closet insecure, puts on a pose like they're a secure masculine alpha, whatever it is. I was like, this guy I thought was cool, and he ended up being the opposite of that. And I don't have anybody like that in my life. Like and I don't collaborate with people that I don't think that we could possibly be cool in another lifetime, or like even, you know, we could have been friends if we knew each other earlier. We probably would have been long-term friends, right? So that's the kind of thing I was, you know, I first met him and we were hanging out and stuff. I was like, I was collaborating, not even for like, we had the same amount of, I had more followers than he did at the point. So when this whole thing started, I was like, hey man, this guy's cool. He's from my area too, man. We're connected. This is awesome. Let's hang out. Let's do some stuff. We even do it just to think cool. Let's do that too. Whatever. Awesome. And then it being the dude that I was like, I did not think he was like that. And then
when did the mask slip, as it were?
At the summer during the show.
Right.
When it was during the competing.
How did it make you feel that he perceived your free advice as you soliciting your coaching services?
Well, I'm like, you're not gonna fucking pull that fucking narrative on me. I'm like, that's when I went off on him.
Yeah.
I was like, that's when the same thing I said on the post is like, I gave the same thing to Eric, and Eric looked at as help. I'm like, why did I offer that? Because I know that I'm good at what I do. I am successful at what I'm doing, and I basically, you know, that's basically what I said. And I'm like, and Eric took that as actual help and actually pursued that, and I did it. I'm like, if I wanted to solicit my training, I would just come on and say, hire me, Mike. I got no problem with that at all. I'm not a beat around the bush type dude. I'm not a cold guy. I'm not a hot guy. I'm not a lukewarm guy.
Yeah.
You either like me or don't like me. I'm going to tell you exactly what's up, and that's who I am. Even when I was talking to Chris Jones, and he was asking me, I went into depth because me and him were boys. And he's like, Johnny, he's like, these guys aren't that real. You can't come out and be that guy and not expect them to scurry off. And that's exactly what happens, because they realize they're not that guy in the room anymore. They can't. The whole thing is like real recognize real. When you realize like, oh shit, this guy's real, I can't fake around that guy. Then you're like, so for me, I was like, that actually like pissed me off. Well,
yeah, I dare say
pissed me off, and like, you know, that really did rattle me actually.
And I imagine the comment you left on my video and some of the points you made in your videos of your own would have been expressions of, you know, I guess a culmination of that frustration you would have felt.
I'm indirectly saying exactly the same thing to Mike's face. I'm saying that I am saying it to Mike.
Yeah.
I am if I do a video about you, I'm doing it to you.
Yeah, sure.
You watch this video, I'm talking, and it is coming from a real place. And I'll repeat the same thing to people like, why don't you say it to him in private? Shut up. Like, shut up. I'm going to say it to him in private too, period. Right? So it's like, and if he doesn't want to hear it coming from me, then don't put it out. Like, do not put that shit out. Don't go on a crusade of telling the world that you have thoughts of breaking people's legs when you're on gear and yada. And then when somebody's comments about it, you're gonna get your panties in a twist. It's like, no, man, no.
I seem to recall that Mike said something to the following effect. If Greg Doucette were actually concerned, or maybe it was Menno Henselman saying it about Greg's comments about Mike. It was like, if you were actually concerned with Mike's health and well-being, then you would reach out to him in private. I mean, I kind of disagree with that. I think these public discussions are valuable because if you fail to convince him privately, then your video can still serve as a kind of cautionary tale.
Sorry. This is a bunch of internet hypocrisy bullshit.
Exactly.
I've had people tell flat out lies about me publicly. And when I go in and I take them to task, people are like, why didn't you take it up with them privately? Why didn't they take it up with me privately? Because what they're doing is they're like, I like him, I don't like you. I'm going to apply a separate standard. If Mike wants to talk shit about Jonni or me or you or whatever publicly, they'll be like, yeah, you tell him what's what. And we say anything back, well, why don't you do it privately? Well, why don't you get I'm sorry, I've run into this shit for so many years.
Here's the thing. People, there's a girl around here, same shit. She put a post of her doing a PR with her coach, and she's got 40 pounds in her hands, and it looks like it's gonna fall on her fucking face. She's doing this, and I'm like, I respect the effort, but I would have lessened the weight by blah 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 blah. And then the coach went on and was like, hey man, I'm just helping her because she want to see her PR, and I just want to blah blah. And I'm like, so because you want to do her PR, does that mean that you no longer as a coach look out for her well-being, her safety, and do things properly, blah, blah, blah? And he's like, well, and then people are like, I think you just should have told her in person about it, And I'm like, because she wanted to put it online and want exclusive praise. That's the only reason why. So you want me to privately tell her how it should be when this is a massive learning moment for everybody, for the client and for the coach. So, and people talk about that shit is because they want praise. They only want praise. Mike wants praise from being like, you're so brave for saying that about how transparent you are about your mental health when you're on steroids. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm going to be transparent about you doing steroids still after the fact. Don't be pissed off about it. And if you don't like it, don't be on this platform. It's a public platform.
Well, yes.
Stop. It's unbelievable to me that somebody can say publicly, hey, look at me. I'm making all of these incredibly stupid decisions. I'm endangering my physical and mental health. And then somehow you're not supposed to be able to criticize them for that.
Oh,
it's ridiculous.
When me and Greg had a little beef, whatever, they did the same thing to me. Because and it always happens with their people they follow and they like the most. They don't want to see them have some truth to them. So when Greg says something about me and I say something back to Greg online, like, why don't you, are you guys are friends? Why don't you just go and talk to him? But like, dude, it works both ways. It works both ways. Like, what are you talking about? It works both ways. You just don't want me to say something mean about the person that you praise.
That's exactly it.
Like,
defenders will always defend whoever. And like I said, Mike can say a bold-faced lie about me and people will accept it. I can put up evidence that he's lying and people will ignore it. Right? Because they've decided they like Mike and they don't like me, and they will apply completely different rules to what he does is okay. And if I do the same thing, I'm in the wrong.
Poof, you have 5 million.
That's human nature. What's that?
Poof, you have 5 million subscribers. How does it look now?
Well, I mean, it's just but that's the nature of it, because I think people don't want to admit that they maybe chose the wrong person to listen to.
I say this with confidence. The online fitness industry is a massive mental illness.
Oh, I don't disagree completely.
Understatement
I don't disagree at all. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm in full agreement.
It's it's like that's the only difference. You don't have 3 million followers. You have 3 million subscribers.
Right, but somebody got my face about that, and they were like, well, Mike's got 2.9 million subscribers. Like, And is this just I don't give a shit. There's lots of people with millions of subscribers who are dumb as turds. That doesn't make their information either A, correct, or more importantly, above criticism. That's the issue, is like, and that's fine. I'm probably one of the most hated people in my side of the industry, because I won't play the games. I won't play politics. I won't kiss these people. Like, I'll go, look, what you're claiming is factually, scientifically wrong. And then I get attacked for it. But if these people are going to pretend that facts matter, why am I in the wrong? Because you have decided that you like Brad Schoenfeld, Mike, whoever it is. And you don't like the fact that I've shown you that demonstrably they are incorrect. And since you can't deal with that, you're going to attack me personally with whatever bullshit excuse you can come up with, because I've dealt with it for decades. And that's just human nature. You can see it in any field. Anytime somebody is decided that they're going to worship someone, they will come up with the dumbest fuck arguments to ignore facts about that. They will find a way to ignore it. And there's nothing you can do about it other than, but the whole thing, why didn't you do it privately? Why didn't they do it privately? Why is it my responsibility to deal with their public bullshit privately? They could have emailed me, but instead so why am I in the wrong for doing the same? But no one will just say, because I like him and don't like you. Well, just say that, and I'll at least respect the honesty.
I'm for that. Yeah, just say the real answer. Don't give
but
me the
they
bullshit.
won't. They have to defend. They've made up their mind, and then have to come up with the explanation after the fact. I just go, I think you're an asshole. Okay, fine. I'll be perfectly okay with that. But whatever. You can't. All you can do. This is something. I mean, I go through phases. You could spend your whole life debunking and get nowhere. Or you can try to put out better information, or you can do a little bit of both, right? I think it is important to show people that are really giving, dangerous, harmful information. I think it's important that they're made aware of that. Debunking every dumb fuck exercise, there's no purpose to it. It accomplishes nothing. Put out better information. And I'm sure that's what I'm quite sure you're doing. So anyway.
Yeah, that's what I do. But
I think that's a place to wrap up.
Demonstrations are
but I will
really
do a top 5 dumb exercises, and 3 of those will be on there. So
because there's no shortage. Every day there will be something new. And something.
Jonni, you were. I just sort of one more question. It was about Mike's surgery. You had some strong thoughts about it. Do you think it was about vanity, desperation, or something deeper?
I can only give it speculation. But
sure.
But he mentioned it a gazillion times. I can say that just from the evidence I have online from his mouth, it's an obvious insecurity that he has in his head. That what he's seeing is way more than what we're all seeing, because I don't see a bunch of water on his, I don't see that there. So that is 100% an insecurity, and because it's not so obvious that what he's insecure about is actually there, it's definitely some kind of muscle dysmorphia by a large margin that he has. If the reason why he got it off was just for that reason, I'd be like, cool, dude, get it off, man. If you don't like it, fuck, go get it off. Awesome. Just like girls, I don't want to have a boy chest my whole life. I'm gonna go get tits. Cool, I respect that. Go get tits. Go cut it off. But I don't think that's gonna make you a better bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Just side note, don't think it's gonna make you a better bodybuilder.
No, and you were very clear about that. It won't give him stage ready conditioning.
No.
Is what you stated. And I would agree fully.
Yeah, just like the tan won't get you lean either.
That's right.
I was just saying, right? So
that's just still, I think that was the winner of inner.
I was actually,
holy shit.
I was there. I have that message in real time.
Oh no!
Really?
In real time when he was at the show, and I asked him how he did, and he's like, he's like talking about the tan. I was like, you gotta know about that beforehand, man.
Wait, you were at the show?
No, I was messaging him. I heavily involved with people that I care about. If they're, I'm trying to do what I can for them.
Sure.
Right. So I remember him saying it. Literally at the show. Apparently my tan was bad. This is the judge was telling me blah blah blah. I'm like, oh really? I'm like, what? And then I saw the thing. I'm like, yeah, you were pretty light, because I'm literally on NPC News online while he's competing, because they pop it up really quick.
Got it.
right? So I was in real time. I remember that going up, and then when he actually came out and said it, made that hour-long video,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, that's a bodybuilding no. Like that's what losers say.
I
Losers say
mean, God, of all things to get, okay, if you're a first-time competitor and you're uncoached, you probably, I mean, you even mentioned it, your first show, it happened.
Yeah.
If you're a first-time competitor, Mike has been competing, over a decade now?
I'm black.
Such a yeah.
Every show after my first fucking show, I'll tell you this right now, there's a I forget what tan is called, but it's an ultra, it's like ultra something whatever.
Okay.
I special request that every fucking show, and I'm black.
Right.
I'm like, you make me Nigerian black. Like I'm dead serious. I literally say that. The girls will laugh, ha 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 ha. I'm like, I ain't joking, but make my ass black as fuck. So it's like, yo, you got to know that.
But just to make that error after a decade, it would be like, I'm trying to think of a better example. It would be like going, you're a pro football player. You're like, forgot my cleats, coach.
I have nightmares about that.
Like shit happens. You like whatever. You make mistakes your first time. To not have your tan right, I have no words. I have no words for a mistake so simple and so easy to fix.
I have nightmares about being late for football games, not having my cleats, and I have nightmares about not having my trunks for bodybuilding shows. There's no way bodybuilders don't have nightmares pre-show with all the psychological shit happening. That's like all things are think. Like I guarantee he had a dream at least, was like, man, I went on stage and I was transparent. Can't let that happen.
I talked to my buddy of mine that I mentioned earlier. He used to compete. He's like, oh yeah, I had an entire bag. I had two extra pairs of posing trunk, extra oil. When I used to take my lifters to meet, I'm like, I got 2 different buckets of chalk. I would take a flat bench in my car just in case they didn't have a proper warm-up area. I'm like, there will be no surprises. I can't control what happens on the platform. I can't control what other competitors do, but I will be damned if my competitor is held back by something that silly. I have no words.
The superstitious from real athletes is like, for me, superstition is like sky. Like
it's
so
true.
There's no way I'm forgetting about there's no way. There's no way else. There's no way I'm forgetting about that. Like, so that feels like the biggest botch to even admit that publicly. That's what got me. I'm like, you admitted that publicly. Like, I would rather somebody say that for me and then be like, yo, man, shoot, yeah, damn, that sucks. Yeah, I was pretty late, wasn't I? Shit, I wish I should have got them to darken me, not come out and be like, oh, by the way, it's my tan. It's like, you don't bring that up. Let someone else bring it up for you.
Yeah.
Just this discussion about psychology among competitors. Sorry to pivot, Lyle, but it reminded me of something Jonni said in one of you, because I was preparing for this podcast by watching a lot of your videos, Jonni, and I think one thing you mentioned was that steroids didn't make Mike arrogant or angry. Rather, that underlying condition was already there, and perhaps the steroids just magnified or exacerbated what was already there.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's where a lot of the ideas about roid rage came from. Steroids don't make you into an aggressive asshole, but when you give them to aggressive football players and fighters, it makes them more aggressive. And that's where a lot, but yeah, it has to be there.
It's been there, and he's given that up. He's given up he was giving himself away on the Diary CEO. The more he started talking, he was like, I don't believe that you can go back in time and you can pinpoint that something happened when you were a kid. I don't believe in that. And then as he keeps talking, he's like, oh yeah, there was this kid when I was younger. But we were in a wrestling match and he started bleeding in his mouth, and he told me, and he stepped over me. I was like, I'll never let that happen again. I'm like, there's your.
You have a good memory.
There, you just said it, Mike. Like,
if he watches this and hits me up and goes, "Hi, I got you, little bitch," if I see him in real life, I might take something from him medical science can't give him back within the next 5 or 10 years.
There it is. Like, and then he makes these comments about, I wanted to break his legs. I'm like, you said the same thing over. You keep saying the same rhetoric over and over again. That's something that's been in your head for a long time. When you keep expressing the same opinion with the same dialect. I took criminal linguistics at university, so I listen to people talk and what they write all the time, and I'm hearing the same thing. I'm like, this is something that you've been dealing with forever and have not let go of. Period.
I believe his actual quote was, "I want to take something away from him that medical science cannot correct." That's fucking psychotic.
Yeah.
And for him to say that and be like, people be like, yeah, okay, you're okay with that? People are still whining about stuff I said over a decade ago. I'm like, you're okay with Mike saying he imagines strangling a dog or whatever the fuck he said. Like, you're okay with this. And you think this is like, really? This is not healthy. This is not,
put it out. To put
if
it out
anyone
there.
else said that, you would think this person's a psycho.
To put it out there. If you have intrinsic thoughts, okay, cool. We all have
Sure.
pretty dark things that happen, but you know, you let that pass and you move on. You know, thoughts aren't real, right? So let it go.
You have done the mindfulness work, haven't you?
Yes, 100%.
That's pure. That's pure.
Oh, yeah.
That's pure Buddhist ACT mindfulness, man.
I have to, like, because I made a video of this. I'm like, I came from a place when people talk about, like, you know, I don't talk, like, I haven't talked about my violent past in a while. When I talk to people about my mental health in my journey, that part never comes up because it's been so far away.
Right.
And it was very problematic.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what that is like that psychology. I know what it's like going through that and getting through it and working through it. So when I see someone say things, I'm just like, you haven't worked on that, because even the way you're saying it in such description, that's something thought about. That's not a impulsive thought that you come out with something that's so almost poetic. You know what I mean? Like, I want to break that guy's legs. Okay. I want to take something away that science can't fix. That's a thought. You were sitting on that thought for a long time. So, you know, and
that's something that's been really festering deep inside you for a lot of years. And
right.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of this kind of echoes. Do you remember Mike's old friend Charlie Jung? He recently put something. He's an IFBB pro now.
Yeah, he
put something, but he no longer has anything to do with Mike. Anyway, he put this on his story the other day. Now, he's adamant that none of this refers to Mike, but his story reads the following. If you're feeling down about yourself today, remember that you've done none of the following. Needlessly announced your retirement from bodybuilding only to return. Says AAS make you angry. No, you're just a dick and in need of a therapist. It kind of echoes what we were saying earlier about.
But yeah, like we've all got our stuff, but you have to, and to your point, like, I mean, mindfulness is like one of the only you can't medicate borderline. Mindfulness to learn, I've got a friend and she basically did the work on her, and her therapist doesn't even believe her. It's like, I don't believe you're BPD. And it's like, no, because they did the work and learn, because they saw that it was so destructive. It was blowing up jobs, relationships, friendships. It's same thing with mine. Like, for me, I was lucky to get medicated, but I did therapy and I'm still aware. Like, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to what I did to friends and family. And like, I always keep that in the back of my mind because I don't want to do it again.
Right. And because as someone who's aware, because I don't know how aware he is, because I didn't think he's aware. He's more in denial because he's very sciencey in terms of, I don't believe that's a mechanism. It's like, you better damn well believe it is. So like, and that's just denial. And when you're in denial, then you continue to have it fester, just like anyone who has, an abusive relationship, whatever, and they can't forgive the person, and they have deeply rooted anger forever, and like, I'm over it. And then all of a sudden they're twitching out every time someone yells at them or whatever. And it's like, where'd that come from? You still hate your mom and your dad still. You need to forgive. You need to go back there and get rid of this shit. It's that kind of thing that he always hasn't done, because it's, he's very much being saved because he has a following online where he can hide behind it. He can be validated. He has an echo chamber of friends who are not calling him out. Maybe Eric, maybe call him out about, how he is with Greg, and I had to call him out that way in order for them to whatever, because Greg is in no wrong from what Greg was saying about Mike at all. Greg was saying the truth. I told Greg this. I'm like, you're telling facts. He's straight up slandering you. That's a difference. And that's a bullshit fucking, apology. But that's the only positive kind of relationship I've seen in that group of someone kind of bringing Mike to the awareness accountable table, but really not accountable, because in that same, little apology they did, he goes and slanders you the same thing. And I'm like, this is bullshit. This is purely because Mike is butthurt and can't handle it, and he needs Greg to cease and desist. That's all that is, and so it's not making anything better. So as a 40-year-old person who's not been through that awareness and won't actually accept it, he'll never change in that. It's something I wanted to do. I knew it was a problem because it got to the point where I was like, this is terrible. This is bad. Like, this is bad. I need to figure this shit out. And I was like, I need to get help myself. I gotta go. Right. And if you're not doing that, it's not helping. You gotta want to have it happen, and you have to want to get better and want to make that your priority. And if it's not, you'll just bury it and make excuses and cope and surround yourself with yes men. And then one day you'll just boom, you blow up and like, oh my God, what the fuck happened? There's my theory.
Nope. Yeah, but it's true. I mean, it's absolutely true. With mine, I had to hit rock bottom to finally be like, okay, I can't do this
probably
anymore.
Like 10 times, probably more than once.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it was like that final time, and I'm like, but I was lucky in that my family was willing to overlook the bullshit that I'd put them through and make them, I had a support network, and I was like, I need help, and I had to be ready to get it, and thank God I did. Right. Yeah. If I hadn't, it just would have kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was very lucky. But yeah, to your point, you have to want to do it. And Mike, and that I think is very dangerous. I mean, you can do it in the real world too, but on the internet, he can just surround himself with people that'll go, yeah, you're want to murder somebody or you want to hurt somebody this badly. You're in the right for saying that publicly. Like, no, maybe you shouldn't support that. Maybe you shouldn't enable that. Maybe you should go, dude, this comes from a position of love, and like, maybe you should address that, because that's not a healthy way to go through life. It's not.
No, not at all.
But it's, I don't think it's going to change. It's too easy to find people even did that again. He went on the one thing with the coach who's like, why is it so hard for you to be coach? The guy started giving him positive feedback on his posing. He was trying to be helpful. Mike's response, well, I can see 12 things wrong with what you're doing.
So I do appreciate your insight onto my posing, but I'll tell you, like, you're missing like 90% of the equation. The other thing, like, do you pictures that you showed me? I can't really tell a huge difference between them. I can also spot about 15 other things you're doing wrong right off the bat on your posing.
Like, Jesus Christ. Like, but you can't help that. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. You can just make long form videos about it, and that works too.
Yeah.
But we just do it for the money.
Oh, apparently.
Yeah.
But only us. Only we do it for the money.
All the dollars. I mean, I'll admit it. I wanted money.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's like, yes, of course. But when people use that argument, it only seems to apply to everyone else.
Right.
Like, look at all the big, natural health people that are like, big pharma's in it only for the money. Dude, you have $1 million mansion. You don't sell your shit for free. Like, it's not that the art, yes, we all do this because we have to make a living. It's the hypocrisy. It's you're just doing it for views. Well, why do you make your videos? Oh, because I want to provide better information to people. Like, it's a cute little game, but you can't, and people will buy into it. People will believe it once they've, the definition of a follower is just someone that, oh God, what is it? Whatever. Once they've appended themselves to someone and decided this person is without criticism, they will defend it to the ends of the earth until they grow up and look back and go, maybe I was in the wrong. Like, yeah, maybe you were. And maybe you just wasted 5 years because you wouldn't listen, but whatever. You can't fix it. You can't. You can just make fun of it.
Yeah.
And that works too. All right. Gentlemen, we should wrap up because my dogs are about to die. So
thanks for coming on and speaking so candidly, Jonni. Seriously.
Absolutely.
No, I appreciate it.
I think it's rare to get that level of honesty. Especially cutting so deeply into the culture of bodybuilding, So not to mention the drive it. It would be a real pleasure. And thanks for sharing the receipts.
Yeah, definitely. We'll chat.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do this again.
Yeah,
Gentlemen,
Yeah.
have a great rest of
And
the
as
evening.
Johnny says himself, print that.
Print
I
that.
like it. Very good.
Print that.
Thank you for joining us.